Welcome back to P-List Exists with the B-listers. Again with this Dritz Cats. Though a little bit irrelevant since the A-listers actually started to work on it. So, we'll just get our opinion out first and go from there. Anyone has anything to say before we start?
This is going to be painful.
Alright. Probably should have played a little bit before we started to see if the stream works okay, but we'll get there when we get there.
In spite of the long-winded
already started
speech
off
that I
strong
gave,
now?
The post-time skip actually starts off pretty good. I know that's a bit, how would you say, anticlimactic, but that's exactly what you would expect from an arc that only has 5 chapters. It's pretty hard to mess up, especially because there's no larger plot to it. There's no bigger stakes. The main function of the return to Saba Odi is for vibes, a good time, and to reintroduce the main cast. And with there being a 2-year gap in the last time that the Straw Hats saw each other, Oda was presented with an opportunity that many authors love, which is changing character designs. The process of changing character designs allows you to create a separation between timelines in a story and give the impression that things have changed, that people are maturing alongside with the characters. It also allows you to naturally develop your characters to make them stand out more and to give the audience something to appreciate when they go back to look at the past. Compared to everything else that is presented within the Return to Saba Odi, the change in character designs is probably the most contentious topic that you'd find discussion on. Character designs are clearly, for the most part, a preference and aesthetic appeal, although I do think that there are positives and negatives that you could definitively point out which has been to the benefit and detriment of many series outside
really
of
likes
One Piece. Personally,
Berserk.
I prefer most of the pre-time skip designs of the Straw Hats, with the exception of Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp. I think
Chopper,
the choice of
yes.
having Luffy brandish the scar that he received from Akainu out in the open for everyone to see is a great visual reminder for the audience and the Straw Hats themselves, if they were to ever care, about how things changed and why they had the time off that they did. Plus, as we all know, scars are cool.
Yeah.
Zoro also
Yeah, so we're getting the start of him saying the Straw Hats don't care when they clearly do care about what's going on. Just I just know this part's going to be painful.
It's a very short part. Whatever.
looks more the part of a veteran swordsman, and Usopp, as we already discussed,
Wait, what?
Zoro also looks more the part of a veteran swordsman, and Usopp, as we
What part of Zoro's design look like a veteran? He just has a cool...
He means a samurai?
I think he means a samurai, but he just wears a coat. And that... whatever the hell he wears around his waist.
I don't want to assume, but I think Dritz is potentially going along the line of he looks more Japanese, therefore he looks more like a swordsman. I'm just putting words in his mouth, but that could be what he could be implying, given what we know of Dritz.
Likeliness... high. You said something, Koski? Also, hello, Koski.
So I was saying, yeah, that's what he was going for. He was trying to say he's a samurai, so therefore more Japanese.
Unintentional racism is unintentional. Don't give two mind about it, alright? Alright, yeah.
He's Zoro. He's just like a samurai.
we already discussed has a severe physical change which makes you think differently of him at first. If I wanted to be specific about new designs that I didn't vibe with, then I'd say that Nami, Chopper, and Frankie are at the top of that list. Frankie, well, I can't say I was ever the biggest Frankie fan, but I think he definitely looked cooler and a bit more serious with his pre-time skip design.
More serious.
Oda went heavy
Ooh.
with the cyborg enhancements, which resulted in Frankie looking like an enormous hulking action figure, which is fine.
You better... I'm still on his balls over the Frankie and Brooke being joke characters. That's like the exact opposite of what I wanted to hear. I'm that got me.
Only the
I don't
coolest
usually get got, but
joke
that got
character
me.
ever.
But I think most people would probably consider it a downgrade. At the end of the day, though, designs are designs. They don't inherently change how good the writing of something is. This isn't said to underplay the importance of character designs, though, because it's one of the most important aspects of a visual medium like One Piece. A series lives and dies based on
He
how
really
attractive
likes
or
Berserk.
unattractive their characters are. Have you ever seen pictures of a series and decided without even knowing anything about the story that you don't want to check it out because some of the characters just look lame? Or perhaps you've had the opposite happen. Maybe you are looking around and you see the promotion of a female character who is 100% waifu material. That is a psychological reaction that creates a bias. And you can see this replicated in the real world. There is an absolutely insane bias towards beautiful people and against ugly people. Beautiful people can get away with a lot more in society just because they look cute. That's a fact. So character design is important, and there's more to it than just that.
What is this manga?
Character design is a good way to represent certain aspects of what your character and your story entails. But when it comes to One Piece, I
so
do think
what he's trying to say is if the character design looks good, then the show is good? Because he's not making sense right now.
You're just saying character design is important.
You see, in real life, ugly bad, pretty good. So therefore,
This has some. This is an honest comparison, not comparison, but this is an all right point to bring up. It's all right. I have no real issues with this, except the fact that this is about half the section of the section.
It just
And
went
no
on.
one in.
Too long for me.
You see something, Ryder?
Sorry, it's just no one. Sorry, just to say, no one in the Straw Hat crew even then looks ugly, really. Like, the worst, Frankie looks a bit over the top, and that's all.
Conventionally unattractive, anyways. Chopper got the major downgrade. No lies, no Johns. The worst.
Yeah.
there is a case to be made, due to what happens later in the post-time skip, that some of the redesigns show issues with how Oda perceives some of his characters, specifically Chopper and Nami. Nami's new design is over-sexualized for fan service to a fault, and doesn't come off in a good way just because of a fashion.
It's a swimsuit.
Miss All Sunday wears like a corset, so
It seems pretty in character for Nami.
cat burglar. Cat burglar. I hope that made a reference clear.
Excuse given in Punk Hazard. Appearances don't mean that you should automatically judge a character, but they certainly help form your impression of them. As I said in Nami's dream, she comes off as more of a sex symbol in the post-time skip. Chopper seems to have turned into a parody of himself, while also looking quite a few years younger, I might add. He has lost the balance he once had between being a reindeer that could walk and talk, to more of like a cute product placement for little kids. And once again, this wouldn't be something to note if there weren't blatant issues with these characters and their actual writing. If there weren't issues, then this would simply be seen as a change in preference for Oda, for the better or worse. Outside of these character designs, the only real issues that I could even attempt to point out with Saba Odi have less to do with the Straw Hats, and more to do with how Rayleigh is still on Saba Odi without being hunted by officials from the world government. Since
people... Actually, that's a good point. Rayleigh could easily disguise himself, but it's a collection of trees, and it's been 2 years. So, him not even... Well, then again, there was also the War of the Best. No, not the War of the Best. The Marineford War. So it's up in the air how Rayleigh was, presented. I was had another point in my head, but I'm dirt tired and I can't process too many things.
I mean, he is just kind of too strong too. So
And unlike other pirates his age, he's just chilling on this island, not really doing much. So it's not like they have a priority for him.
That too.
And even then, what could they do against Rayleigh? He's like the second strongest pirate there is.
He's the right hand man of Gold Roger, the king of the pirates. Let me go back.
Or Oda, for the better or worse. Outside of these character designs, the only real issues that I could even attempt to point out with Sabaody have less to...
Yeah, I remember now. Considering that he has a problem with Anami, and he doesn't have a problem with Robin's character design, I can say he definitely hates Nami more than Robin. And from Robin, well, Robin didn't have a section, but Nami's section, well, I already disclosed that, but point is, this guy doesn't get these characters, and he needs to read the book again. That's about it.
Hunted by officials from the world government. Since, as we all know, his residence was confirmed to be there back in the original Sabaody. And a pirate-hating fleet admiral might be more inclined than Sengoku to capture one of the most famous people to have ever lived. That still has an active bounty. But this is an incredibly minor criticism because I don't think the answer to this question is something that greatly affects the story in any way here. Rayleigh serves a negligible role in this 5-chapter arc, and the positives with Rayleigh far outweigh the consequences of what this question's answer may be. One of the best scenes of the arc is Rayleigh seeing Luffy go off on his new adventure, remembering his time with Roger, and then succumbing to tears in his pride at Luffy, which makes him be determined to live more in order to see the future. Outside of this, we get some welcomed interaction between the Straw Hats. We see Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji overcome the Pacifista, which had previously given them trouble. We get the fake Straw Hat Pirates and an abundance of jokes. Luffy uses Conqueror's Haki willingly, and we see Luffy's fame from the Summer War. Oda saves Luffy meeting up with half of the crew until the end, which results in the excitement and joy when he calls out to them. Everything ends off with a good speech from Luffy to the Straw Hats. This is exactly what the Doctor ordered. Short and sweet. It's a wholesome and successful way to set sail and begin the descent to the depths of the sea. Target destination? Fishman Island. The first complete arc of the post-time skip. An arc that has a reputation, even within the casual fanbase, for being known as one of the weaker arcs in the story.
See what he thinks about Shirahoshi. Can obviously tell what he thinks about Sanji.
The expedition down into the murky waters offshore the Sabaody archipelago feels like old school One Piece, and is very reminiscent of the Straw Hats' ascent to Skypiea, as well as their initial entry into the Grand Line. There are a few details that also parallel this. Skypiea was 10k meters in the air, whereas Fishman Island is 10k meters underwater. We have the Straw Hats getting in trouble and having to navigate the odd environment that is the One Piece world. Oda includes some fun time with the currents, and once again, the Straw Hats meet a giant animal that they end up befriending. Similar to the baboons.
Surume look good! I swear, the anime did not do him justice. I'm gonna ogle that image some more. Damn! That shit looks good!
Yeah, the anime didn't do that scene that great comparatively.
Giant animal that they end up befriending, similar to Laboon. During the beginning part of the descent, it is a silent voyage, with the Straw Hats gazing in awe of the environment and just goofing around. Similar to Sabaody, the dive down to Fishman Island is mostly devoid of errors when you are reading it for the first time. Until the Straw Hats reach the island itself, Oda is mostly exploring and just vibing, and as a result, so are we the audience. But that's not the only thing he does. Oda uses the silent voyage as an opportunity for a little bit of discussion and incorporates Frankie as the vehicle to approach the Kuma reveal. It is learned that Duval, and mainly Kuma, are responsible for protecting the Sunny over the time skip. Frankie goes on to say that he asked Rayleigh about the confrontation he had with Kuma after getting back to the Sunny. Rayleigh informed Frankie that Kuma revealed himself to be a leading member of the Revolutionary Army who wished to help the Straw Hats escape 2 years ago. Storytime comes to an end when the Straw Hats learn that Kuma agreed to have his mind erased by Vegapunk shortly after he saved the Straw
Well,
Hats.
that looks different in the manga.
There is the foreboding message that if they were to ever encounter Kuma again, he would be an enemy. Zoro mentions how screwed up that situation is for Kuma and questions why he would go so far just for the Straw Hats. Usopp makes the connection that since he is in the Revolutionaries, that the only reason that would have happened is because of Luffy's real dad, Dragon. This is a great reveal for the audience. Let's examine this scene and place it into context with what the rest of the post-time skip has to offer, because for as much as current events can affect later ones, information in the future can affect the quality of the past as well, and I think that might be the case here.
Yeah.
This recollection from Frankie recontextualizes all of the Straw Hats' past experiences. Them meeting Kuma back on Thriller Bark, Zoro's own experiences sacrificing himself for Luffy, and most importantly, the reason the Straw Hats are still alive and weren't captured by Kizaru on that fateful day. Kuma literally sacrificed his life for their sake. Among other things, this revelation gives Luffy a whole new set of things that he could think about.
2 years.
The dad that he knows nothing about has made numerous efforts in order to help him out on his journey. Garp told him in Water 7 that Dragon freed him from Smoker and saw him off at Logtown, likely hinting at the fact that Dragon was keeping an eye on his progress. Luffy also knows that Ivankov has connections to Dragon, and Luffy likes Ivankov. Akainu does as well if Luffy was paying attention and reading into his dialogue, but maybe he doesn't catch that, which is fine. And now we have this Kuma business. All of these events hint at the idea that despite his absence from Luffy's life, there is a reason to this, and Dragon still cares in some way, shape, and form about Luffy. So there's a mystery behind why this is the case. It's very, very interesting stuff. However, Luffy has virtually no response to Kuma's story and couldn't care less. In my opinion, this is an aspect of Luffy's character that is a pro and a con. Normally, Luffy isn't interested in talking about anything at any point in time outside of casual conversation, which is why it's often the case that in a talk with Luffy, the other person he's talking to is normally required to hard carry the conversation to make up for Luffy's lack of personality when it comes to this and lack of care. This plays into Luffy's childlike mentality though, so it's either going to be something that you like or dislike because it's done very intentionally from Oda. He's commented on this numerous times, and it's one of the reasons why Luffy doesn't have internal dialogue like most characters do. As far as the story goes, however, Luffy's reaction to this Kuma news is in character, and it's consistent with what the rest of the story has been like from the beginning, so there's no writing issue here. Curiously though, Robin was listening the entire time and seems to be holding information back, which does bring up a different conversation related to this topic. As we know, Robin spent the time skip with the revolutionaries, and she obviously knows more than the Straw Hats, and perhaps even the audience does, concerning Kuma. Dragon was interested in meeting her, so it's almost assured that Robin has met, interacted with, and knows Dragon to some degree, especially considering her positive relationship with Sabo and Koala. In the heat of the moment, you might assume that Robin's silence here would be the beginning of a future plot point or foreshadowing to some kind of event. Luffy's disinterest in Dragon could have been something that relates to what Robin has experienced with Dragon and is looking out for. The readers are heading into the time skip with the expectation that what and where the Straw Hats were will have a relevant impact on what they do in this new environment. In retrospect, I think this can be assessed and determined to be a missed opportunity as it relates to Robin and most characters, if we're being honest.
Pause.
Well, first off, making good time. Don't really have anything to say about that, even though, well, it's just a complete synopsis up until this point. But, you can continue now, Ryder.
Yeah, so we just went on to make the point that Luffy doesn't really care about what happened in regards to other people. That's always been consistent with Luffy, and that Robin tends to be a secretive person. So consistently, the fact that Robin didn't tell him anything to do with Dragon, and that Luffy didn't really ask anything about Dragon, that's logically coherent with all those characters thus far. There's really no issue there.
I agree.
Yes, these characters are acting in logic with how they would. What's actually the problem here, is it?
He hasn't really said an issue. It's just it's just a synopsis of the story.
The synopsis makes things go quicker.
When you head into Dressrosa and come to realize that Sabo is alive, knows Robin, and has interacted with her before, it's questionable as to why Oda even had Robin join the revolutionaries to begin with, because it has next to no effect on the story and the progression of its events, its characters, and especially in relation to Luffy. I'm not sure why this is the case.
She doesn't need to do anything with the revolutionaries. The revolutionaries, well, as far as I can see it, they have no interest with Robin's knowledge. Or maybe they did have interest in Robin's knowledge and they got everything they need from her. But either way, in the story, there's no reason for Robin to care about the revolutionaries and vice versa.
As an idea, it was rather brilliant for Oda to separate the Straw Hats the way that he did, because for a story that paints its main characters to be as close as they are, tearing them apart from one another is a fantastic plot device to use in order to make them even closer than they were before. I wonder how the Straw Hats would interact if they were to actually have discussions about the things they've done or seen. Which brings us to the next topic. Shortly after this Kuma reveal, the Straw Hats deal with Caribou's sneak attack on their ship, and there's some conversation about the currents of the ocean, which includes some foreshadowing for Vanderdecken, but the unbelievable happens. Luffy and Zoro are standing next to each other on the Sunny when Luffy, of all people, asks Zoro, "So Zoro, where did the bear guy send you?" And Zoro replies with, "Oh, you're not gonna believe this." Luffy instigated a character interaction with his right-hand man, and it's a conversation of immense interest and potential. As a fan, this is everything you could ever want. How would Zoro convey what happened to Luffy? Obviously, he would avoid the sacrifice of his pride, but the sheer fact that Oda...
Okay, so... does that say Zolo?
Yes. You know, trademark.
Oh, God. Oh, God, it's my first time seeing
Yeah,
that.
Your first time?
Still using it.
I'm not reading the Viz translation if they can't even spell Elbaf correctly.
Well,
This is the first time I've seen Zolo and it's... oh, fuck, it's awful.
It's I say trademark reasons, but I really have no... What are they basing this off? Because Zoro is technically trademark, but not only is it with 2 R's, it's a pretty old franchise.
2 R's is copyrighted, but they're just really don't want to try it, so they didn't.
Japan's copyright laws are weird, given that no one in Shonen Jump stopped Rocky from naming any of the characters Dans or any of the characters after bands. But this, they'll stop this straight away.
Well, that's pretty much Japanese thing.
When they put them in English, they have to change the names because they're English names. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Even if
Still weird because they're still. It's like you can just say, "Oh, this name is that," but you can hear them say the actual name. Oh, Solo is the worst. Well, I say it's
something. I don't speak Japanese. It's okay.
Zipper Man.
This is going to be one that's worse that I know of, and we can continue.
Dirty deeds done at a reasonable price. filthy acts at a reasonable price.
Showed the idea of the crew interacting and being interested in what happened during the 2 years is amazing. So what's the result of this? What's the answer to the question? Just when Zoro is about to speak to Luffy, the entire scene is taken over by a gag of the Straw Hats not understanding sea currents, leaving the conversation to have been off-screen or interrupted. It's not really clear what happened. This is a moment that I look back on and regret, because if you know the future of the post-time skip, then you realize that this wasn't a one-off moment that Oda used to cock-tease the audience on something. There was no plan in the future.
Tease. Good sir, what was the cock? I did not feel teased by this moment. I just enjoyed the funny, dumb crewmate moment. This is him imprinting too much into one scene again. I mean, did anyone else really cared too much about Zoro telling Luffy
didn't have
about?
a problem with it.
We also got another person in the chats. And that person left. Wouldn't be much of a significance to really anyone if Zoro did already know. Actually, that voice crack though, it would be pretty cool that one of the crewmates was trained under the strongest swordsman, but apart from that, it doesn't really have anything else. Just a cool note. So I don't know where he's going with this.
That Oda used to call.
Sorry, you can continue. I thought you'd finished.
Well, you can still say your points.
I mean, like, even if... Sorry, it's just... I like to let the other people finish first, but, like, for letting me go, either way, even if we'd gone, like, oh, you'll never believe it, Luffy, so I was being correct, ooh, thing, that would just... Even if we got that, it would still play out the same, that Luffy would probably be distracted like he is right now in the scene he's showing.
Yeah, that's about it.
Or it'd be like... Sorry.
No one would really have a strong reaction to it. End of sentence.
Or it would be like, so what happened with you? Sword, never mind, never mind, look, the ocean. Luffy would get distracted very quickly if Zoro just blabbed on about swords.
I mean, considering they both met Mihawk, I'm pretty sure he would have something to say on that.
Oh yeah, he has met him twice at least.
Considering Zoro almost died to Mihawk, I'm pretty sure that would be ingrained in his brain. As for everyone else, all I can say is a reaction, and that's about it. From them knowing that Zoro was trained under Mihawk.
Hawk teased the audience on something. There was no plan in the future to dive into any detail whatsoever. This was just a gag for the sake of a gag that sacrificed a great character interaction. This is something that I would say is a concerning and pervasive issue. The Straw Hats are a group of friends that are meant to be as close to a family as you can get without being blood related. They are a unit, a package, nakama. To fans, it feels like they've been together forever and always will be. And if that's the case, then I think there's an inherent issue with the lack of character interaction between them after 3D2Y. It doesn't make sense for quote-unquote friends to not ask or care about what they've done or been involved.
As students, we're constantly evaluated on the quality of our writing.
Oh, here's a little trick you might not know.
Involved with, or for Oda to not show that, especially after being separated by Kuma in the way that they were, and especially after having Luffy.
Yes.
How many of them even know each other's like backstory?
Nami, Desano Brooks, and Frankie's. That's about it.
So what is he talking about? They don't know stuff about each other. That's perfectly fine.
It's the usual. In fact, that's kind of the norm. when I think about it.
Yeah.
Even then, we can imagine they talked about it like off screen because there's probably a lot of time they spent in between sailing that they could have talked about it. But generally, as far as we know, no one knows anything about what happened to anyone. Luffy definitely doesn't know anything about what happened to anyone, and probably doesn't care.
Apart from Luffy, no one. Okay, I say this, but I'm pretty sure I would like to think. I would like people think that Brooke went on a concert. But all I know is Frankie and Robin, if I'm remembering correct, knows about. Oh, did I say Frankie? I meant Brooke. Frankie and Robin knew about Brooke's concert in his world
Yeah,
tour.
and no one knows anything about Zoro's backstory.
They just don't say much about their past.
And also, to a point, like, still, like, even if you're close friends, you might not talk to each other about everything. During COVID, I didn't see some of my friends for a while, and it's like, what did you get up to? Oh, not much, and that was it.
Seemingly be interested in the prospect. Now, I know I don't need to remind you, but I will anyway, but the crew has spent more time away from each other than they have with each other. But in the
Oh,
pre-time
who put the filter on this? Who put the filter on this video? You guys see the bold-tastically disgusting 60 frames per second filter?
Oh, I see that. That's. Eesh.
Let's get a good
interested in the
recap.
prospect.
There was a little bit.
Now, I know I don't need to remind you, but I will
Let's
anyway, but the crew has spent more time away from each other.
Yeah, the flames there. The flames there. Oh god, that looks horrible. It's so blurry. This isn't even the first time I've seen this in this video.
Than they have with each other. But in the pre-time skip, character interactions were something that were much more frequent.
That scene with Brooke is already 60 frames per second. You don't even need a filter.
But in the pre-time skip, character interactions were something that were much more frequent, serious and casual alike. The pre-time skip revolved around the character arcs of the people joining the crew. But during the post-time skip, meaningful character interactions don't really seem to be something that Oda cares about or focuses on beyond anything that's surface level. Oda seems to favor supplementing.
Yeah.
Does he have any proof that Oda does not care about these things that he's saying that Oda does not care about? Was there an interview? Did he make it public?
I can say
that Oda.
I can say I see a little bit less compared to the post-time skip. But apart from that,
Yeah, they added more characters.
yeah, they added a lot more characters compared to the earlier parts. So I guess that could be a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, there is
Yeah,
a
and
lot
then
more going on.
Fishman, they had all those scenes where they had callbacks to stuff they did before, like with Zoro and Chopper and the monster thing. It was a bunch of them in Fishman.
Look at that panel, Meme Spice. You mean the funny Usopp face? It is quite humorous. Oh, I see. Yeah. Now that I actually read it.
That face is beautiful. We should make that an emote.
I gotcha. Attempting to screenshot this. God's sake, does people not know how to shut doors in this house? I'm back and I'm proceeding to capture the image. And image cut. Yeah, that's the Usopp moment.
Character interactions with gags so that he can show the same joke a million times over. Gags aren't a bad thing either.
What do you mean a million times over? When was Usopp ever the confident one in this scenario? Okay, actually confident in a scenario. Because usually there's a little knee shakes whenever he's proclaimed any sort of confidence.
So I don't want to make it seem like the incorporation or the attempt at humor is what I'm pointing at. Gags can help bring characters to life. However, when there is an overwhelming disparity between gags and real conversation or plot lines, it creates a narrative dissonance. In situations where you think characters will care about something because the story has set it up that way, you will instead get nothing. The main characters feel like they're...
He really do be saying funny face bad. Oh, hell nah. Hell nah.
Wait, he didn't like this moment? This was a pretty cool moment.
He do be saying funny face bad, and I'm triggered. Also, this scene... Also, I saw a clip of this scene with Robin and... yeah, I forget their Wano names. Robin and Usopp. This was actually plot relevant, so even then, he's talking out of his bumhole. You really do be saying funny face.
Story
bad.
has set it up that way, you will instead get nothing. The main characters feel like they are sitting in the background while the story is simply happening in front of them, and that is a horrible feeling to give the audience. And at many times, that's what it feels like with the Straw Hats. And like I said before, this is the most important part of the story from a structural standpoint, and for the characters to be less engaged during this section is a complete contradiction. And it's for these reasons why the off-screening of this potential interaction between Zoro and Luffy is extremely bittersweet, because it's indicative of the future. I think Oda should take some time to think about what his priorities are in scenes like this in the long run of the series. What is better? Luffy and Zoro talking to each other, or a sea gag? Let's continue. The rest of the journey down to Fishman Island goes...
Sea gag, 80 over 20. Take sea gag most times over Zoro and Luffy talking. Period.
rather smoothly and is composed of an abundance of gags, and a small display of power from the crew. We see Luffy use hardening for the first time, we see Sanji use skywalk underwater, Robin protects the ship alongside Chopper, everyone meets Surme and Watatsume, and the presence of Vanderdecken is confirmed. Vanderdecken is actually introduced in an intriguing manner. Oda gives his vessel a ghost ship design and even uses the legendary seafaring name of the Flying Dutchman, which gives off the idea that it could lead to something interesting. Fishman Island really begins shortly after this though, when the Straw Hats get visual...
I mean, it's just a reference to the real Vanderdecken. Come on, dog. You can't be doing this.
Pirate references in my pirate manga? Say anything so.
No, not in my manga.
Not in my manga. Not in my pirate adventure manga. That isn't even finished yet.
There's no pirate adventures in the series with characters called Trafalgar Law, Blackbeard, and X-Trade. Not at all.
Jolly Roger? A man named Roger who laughs? Nah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Confirmation of the place they're going to, and are confronted by Hammond and the new Fisherman Pirates. Hammond gives a little speech and tells the Straw Hats that their only choices are to either join Hody or to die. During this little speech, it is revealed that Hammond has the same tattoo that Arlong did, which makes Nami uncomfortable, reasonably so. The Straw Hats use their last bit of air in a coup de burst, entering Fishman Island in a dangerous manner, and thus become separated from each other by the strong currents. Generally speaking, the reason why authors split groups of people up is so that they can incorporate those characters into plot lines that otherwise wouldn't be possible had they been stuck together. or to give alone time so that X, Y, or Z can happen. When the Straw Hats are separated upon entering Fishman Island, they are isolated into the following groups. Group 1, Luffy, Sanji, Usopp, and Chopper. Group 2, Brook. Group 3, Zoro. And Group 4, Nami, Frankie, and Robin. I am going to go through in chronological order the sequence of events that occurs post-separation, but as I do, I want you to keep the following in mind. What is the end result of this separation? What does it accomplish? Alright? Alright. After the separation, Luffy wakes up in Kami's apartment with Sanji, Usopp, and Chopper after being rescued by the mermaids who were nearby. There is a sequence of what I find to be solid, normal talk between Kami and the Straw Hats. We learn a bit about the economics and apartment setup in which Kami is living in, as well as the mention of Papagu. The Straw Hats are treated to the scenery of the island as they take a turtle taxi and view Fishman Island's unique beauty. Eventually, they make their way to the Mermaid Cove, where Oda delivers more gags about Sanji loving women.
There are color manga pages of the strips. Don't be afraid to use them. Thank you.
And how the Mermaid Cove is his all blue. In the character dream portion, I talked about the lack of character agency when it comes to Sanji and the all blue. And if you are a person that is invested in Sanji, when he proclaims to have found his all blue, you might look back at this scene a bit sideways, because while this is a joke that isn't supposed to be serious, you could make the same statement towards Sanji's actual dream. It's a joke and isn't serious.
Come on,
If
dog.
there was any place to start Sanji's journey for
You
the
really
all
got
blue in the
filtered by
post-time
this?
skip, then Fishman Island.
What did you say, Katsuki?
I said he really got filtered by this.
What do you mean by filtered?
Like he saw this and was just how would I put it? He couldn't make the cut, man. This you know, it put him on the spot.
Well,
You just don't get it.
well, if you don't know, he has an issue with Sanji looking for the all blue. The fact that he isn't constantly looking for the all blue. So him actually mentioning something related to the all blue, especially in a joke, is questionable at best.
But it was such an easy joke to comprehend.
Yeah, but all blue, we're fish though. We're fish though.
He can't be getting filtered by stuff like this, bro.
Well, actually, I would say this is the second worst of it.
Yeah, I ain't watched the beginning parts of this.
Yeah. Well, hope you like some surprises then. And some exclamations by me.
Island would have been the perfect place. Sanji is surrounded by a culture of people who have been around for hundreds of years, who are sea people that live in the sea. I don't know, man. Maybe they might be a good source of information. Maybe Sanji could see things here that indicate its existence, like how Zeph said. There was a lot of potential to incorporate a subplot.
Yes. I was about to say something as well.
I'll let you go first then.
So, if the seamen, as you would like to put it, Stritz, I'm sure you would like to call them seamen, ever even knew anything at all about the All Blue, you don't think any pirates or world noble would also know about said blue? I'm pretty sure if enough people even gather to said place, it wouldn't be much of a secret or a legend, now would it?
Yeah, my point is a bit similar to yours. It's just like the expectation that just because they're fish people, that they somehow know where the All Blue is or have any hints of it.
Also, I'm pretty sure Sanji being dead half the arc would also impede him in looking for the All Blue.
Yeah, that as well. Also, we don't know how far Zeph got in the Grand Line. We don't know if he got here. Because if Zeph had gotten to... Oh, Zeph went to Fishman Island. They talked about the All Blue. It probably would have been a thing he would have talked about.
Also, the power scaling on Zeph would be off the charts.
Yeah, Zeph would be nuts if he made it to the second half of the Grand Line. Clearly losing a leg nerfed him completely.
Losing one leg is like losing like 80% of your powers.
The way we defeat Kaido is we cut off one of his legs and boom, he's weaker than Usopp.
And then we hit him with said leg because it is strong.
You hit him with the leg
Big
because
fist,
that's where all his
punch
power
dragons.
is.
That's why Sanji is so powerful. Sanji and his 3 legs.
We learn a bit about the economics and apartment setup of the island. Eventually, that is invested in Sanji. When he proclaims to have found his all, it's a joke. The All Blue, founded by a culture of people who have been around for hundreds of years, who are sea people that live in the sea. I don't know, man. Maybe they might be a good source of information. Maybe Sanji could see things here that indicated its existence, like how Zeph said. There was a lot of potential to incorporate a subplot here. As a matter of fact, when Sanji makes his joke about the All Blue here at the Cove, that joke could have been used to propel a side plot. Example: Sanji screams about this being his All Blue, a mermaid, or a new character in the Cove, or perhaps just someone nearby. Here Sanji says this, and Oda can go in a different direction. It confuses me as to how Oda didn't even think to include Sanji in anything meaningful in this arc. I would definitely consider this a missed opportunity. There are people who are frustrated with Sanji's nosebleed gag, and not without reason. It starts in Sabaody and persists until he sees Shirahoshi, so it's not as if it's an isolated incident that only happens once. But the real source of irritation likely comes from the fact that Sanji almost dies from his nosebleeds. It turns from a gag to a serious consequence. Sanji almost dying within the story at the first island, which, if you are reading Fishman Island, it is impossible to care about Sanji literally almost dying because of the manner in which this has happened. When you combine this with the fact that there is no real substance with Sanji in the entire arc, it's understandable why people become frustrated. Those silly situations are only as entertaining as what you get out of them, right? Almost killing Sanji to introduce the blood transfer plotline, which ends up being solved by the Okamas, which is yet another trolling of Sanji, isn't the best way to get people to like what happened, which brings us back to the story at hand.
Yeah, Sanji gets the boots in the time skip when I now think about it.
What are you talking about, man? He's always has the best arcs, man.
No, I meant the boots, the shaft.
Yeah, fish, man, but not in Wano or Whole Cake.
Short
He's been eaten. He's been eaten.
Well, in Fishman Island, he died from nosebleed, and then the Okama trauma.
Yeah, Fishman and Punk Hazard, and I can't rock with him.
And then the entirety of Whole Cake. I don't know. I'm just seeing more Sanji shafts than in previous arcs.
First half of the time skip Sanji, not great. Second half, a lot better. It's better than what happened in Fishman Island.
Alright. I agree.
After Sanji faints from bone loss, Luffy engages Hamon and Hyozo in a short bout, and Kami steals the royal eel, thus making an escape from the scene, leaving the princess baffled and regretting that they couldn't give Luffy Jinbei's message. The Straw Hats find some reprieve in Madame Charlie's shop, and Chopper deduces that Luffy was poisoned. This is when Usopp and Chopper find out that Luffy developed an immunity towards poison due to Magellan. I'm sure this will be relevant in the future. It might be worth pointing out that this could have also been seen as
it's
an
relevant
opportunity.
now, guy. Come on, dog.
Wano. Should we say because Meme is sort of here and Meme's not up to Wano yet?
Well, actually, Whole Cake.
Oh yeah, Whole Cake as well, but it's just. You cut out there. I'm not sure what happened.
I'm just waiting for Meme Spice to type down something.
Fair enough. Just okay. So. Okay, non-spoilery, but there have been times where that has come into play. That Luffy's poison immunity has been relevant. That's all I'm going to say. Minus not bringing up any specific examples.
It isn't like there's a mad scientist who is made of poison. No, nothing like that.
It might be worth pointing out that this could have also been seen as an opportunity from Oda when it comes to incorporating the events of Marineford into more serious interactions and subplots within the Straw Hats. When Luffy candidly mentions that he almost died from being poisoned by Magellan, it could have reminded the Straw Hats of what Luffy had to go through while they were gone, and not there to be a supporting cast, especially for someone like Chopper. Something that could have been made all the more apparent by the end of this arc when Luffy seems to suffer PTSD from Akainu and grabbing his scar. If any of the Straw Hats were paying attention to Luffy, which there's no reason that they shouldn't be because
Luffy almost dies every arc, so
That was obnoxious what he just did.
hold up, let the scene go on and let it complete before any comments. Thank you.
I just want to comment on this because I don't think this image shows it best. I wouldn't call this PTSD. That's just Luffy looking really angry.
He's an emotional guy, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not really PTSD. If it was PTSD, Luffy would be like panicky, stressed out, terrified. But no, he's really, really angry.
Also, his wound is throbbing apparently, so like he's grabbing it.
The mere mention of Akainu throbs his inner and his outer wounds. It's like a hypnotism, and we all know how well Oda implements hypnotism. That joke didn't really lead into anything. I was trying to be funny.
this arc when Luffy seems to suffer PTSD from Akainu and grabbing his scar. If any of the Straw Hats were paying attention to Luffy, which there's no reason that they shouldn't be because they were all right there, that was another opportunity that presented itself as a means of getting the crew to interact with each other. When you see your captain having PTSD, I don't know, maybe you care, maybe not.
Yeah, this is obnoxious.
Snap back to reality.
What was that close up for? Wait, he has a poster of Nami in his bedroom, remember?
The only thing he has in his bedroom, because he barely has anything else. Don't know.
Oh, maybe he threw away most of his stuff when he decided to become Dark Drix, the destroyer of One Piece.
The only thing I know the guy likes is, from what we've seen, is he used to like One Piece. He likes LeBron James.
He likes Berserk a lot.
He likes Berserk. That's all we know of. Is that all he's watched?
And maybe Star Wars, maybe.
Oh yeah, and D&D potentially, since Dritz is a D&D related thing.
And the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Let's run that rap. Let's run that rap back, baby.
No, we're not going back to that hell zone again.
All right. Let's hear what he has to say about. Okay, I don't think it's going to be related to Charlotte.
I don't know. Maybe you care, maybe not. Who knows? Snap back to reality. We have Madame Charlie, a well-designed shark mermaid with an interesting ability to see into the future. An ability which causes drama as she catches a vision of Luffy destroyed.
Yes, sir.
Why is she well designed? He just says she's well. He just said she's well designed, and then like, why? I can think of one reason why, given why, but he doesn't say, and I would really like it if YouTubers could actually elaborate on points rather than just say things and then move on.
This is the first, apart from the Straw Hats, this is the only time he ever said anything about a well-designed character.
Yeah, he never really mentioned anything about what he likes or what he dislikes of the designs to that much of a degree. All we got is Zoro looks more like a samurai, and Frankie has big arms. Oh yeah,
No,
Luffy's design is good. That's
answer-
all we got. Sorry, you were saying something and I interrupted.
Oh, Nami's fan service that bad.
Especially in
Despite
the
his giant-
anime.
Despite his giant poster of Nami in his room.
Destroying Fishman Island. Luffy and the gang continue to explore as they meet Papagu and Brook, leading them to join up with Nami, who is shopping. Following this, Neptune makes a surprise appearance and invites the Straw Hats to come dine with him at Ryugu Palace. Leading up to this point in time, which has only been a handful of chapters, mind you, Hody has been introduced and subsequently hyped up 3 times. Once at the beginning with Hammond, once again when Hammond reports that they found the Straw Hats and Hody orders them to be brought to him, and then once again at the end of 611. Oda hypes up Hody's strength by having him take drugs and deal with Crab Hand Gyro. Impressive. In the chapter following this, we learn a few things.
Pause.
Caribou has a
Yeah, I agree. Disrespecting the man Gyro. He escaped with his life. He did pretty well against the fishman doped up on whatever the hell that is.
Also, we don't know how strong Crabman Gyro is, so the fact that he beat Crabhand Gyro means nothing. You could just say, oh, Hody beat Big Man Fish person. I'm not good with names on the fly. But either way, we can't really say he's strong based off just saying he beat X person. If he said, Hody, oh, that guy beat Aokiji, then say, oh yeah, Hody's a big deal, but we don't know what this guy is, so this means nothing. He's not been established as a threat.
But here's the most important thing. Hody had to take drugs.
Yeah. Hody needs a power up to actually do what he needs to do.
Also, he left.
Oh no.
Well, whatever. Also, I guess you guys also forgot, he intentionally let them live to send a message.
Oh yeah, he did, so yeah, he's not even trying.
escaped and begins capturing mermaids, and while flying towards Ryugu Palace, Neptune reveals that Zoro is already at the castle and is drinking. Luffy asks Nami where everyone else went because Nami was paired up with Frankie and Robin, and Nami reveals the following. Frankie said that he was going to look for a relative of Tom's. Then Robin was talking about some important history, so we split up. I'm not sure I follow this logic, though, because since everyone got split up after being threatened before entering the island, maybe you'd think they try to get back together, especially because there's nothing else that is actually pressing them in terms of plot development, but whatever. A more natural way of splitting these characters up.
I mean, let's see here.
He doesn't follow the logic of two characters doing things that they would care about personally.
Now, I can't say remember too much, but there's been several occasions where the Straw Hats split up, one reason or another. So this isn't even a new or unique situation. Secondly, apart from Usopp, not even okay, I forget, but did Frankie even explain his backstory about Tom? Or no, Iceberg. She something Frankie and Iceberg's relationship with Tom, something Den being introduced, something them wanting to know where Frankie was, something Frankie went to Den. something something. There was no character assassination there. You were gonna say something, Ryder?
I was gonna say, I really can't remember. I really don't know if anyone even knows anything about Frankie's backstory. And I was gonna look it up, but like I can't really find anything on that even.
All I got is I say Iceberg and Robin, but no, not that. Tom wasn't even mentioned. Okay, I think he was mentioned. No, I'm not certain. Nevertheless, Frankie wanted to meet somebody. So what? He wanted to meet someone that he cared about. Brother. This is a Frankie thing. What's so wrong about it? Come on, Dritz.
Plot development, but whatever. A more natural way of splitting these characters up probably would have been to show a sequence with these characters being confronted by other things. This does come off as a bit forced. Nami and Usopp talk to Neptune about sunlight underneath the water, which is actually a pretty good conversation. Usopp writes down on a note to remind himself to talk to Frankie about the Eve tree because it reminds him of the Adam tree. I'm sure this will be important later on, and Usopp would definitely talk to Frankie about this on screen. The Straw Hats arrive at the palace, and then, as we know, Luffy runs off chasing the scent of food and finds Shirahoshi. Outside of the Fisher Tiger flashback and the epilogue of the arc, including the blood transfusion with Jinbei, this is what I would say is the next best section. Shirahoshi engages in a nice discussion with Luffy, and I find her to be an endearing character when paired with Luffy. Shirahoshi embodies the archetype of the childlike princess trapped in the castle, knowing little of the outside world, while desperately wanting to see more. What Shirahoshi really wants is freedom, and conceptually it's great to balance that with someone like Luffy, who is supposed to value freedom above all else. Luffy is a strange and confusing being to her. Supposed to...
Oh, that's just lazy. What are you doing? The text of the text at the bottom left.
Viz. Oh, someone at Viz needs to be fired.
That's just lazy. But we're not talking about the manga. We're talking about Dritz talking about the manga.
Value freedom above all else. Luffy is a strange and confusing being to her, and is completely foreign. But despite Luffy's rudeness, it's something that Shirahoshi secretly yearns for, because she doesn't get to talk to basically anybody, which is why whenever the guards come in, she doesn't inform the guards of Luffy being there and wants to keep talking to him. When Shirahoshi starts asking Luffy if he's ever seen the sun or trees, I think that's when everything comes together and you fully see how Luffy and Shirahoshi make for a good conversation and theory. Shirahoshi's lack of freedom prompts Luffy into wanting to give her what she wants. During this discussion, we get a transition over to Vanderdecken for the first time, where he proclaims his love for Shirahoshi and throws an axe. Try to keep Vanderdecken's motives in mind, because they get very, very confusing as the arc progresses. The axe is stopped by Luffy, and Luffy manages to convince Shirahoshi to go on a walk with him after promising to protect her. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats get blamed for all the hubbub going on in town with Caribou, and Neptune is about to take action when Zoro comes out of nowhere to stop him, revealing that he freed himself from prison because he heard fighting. The scene transitions to show that Vanderdecken and Hody Jones have now teamed up, and Oda once again hypes up their goal of destroying the Royals. Oh boy.
Hey!
Some random voice change.
At the same time this is happening, Nami is talking to the group, and
How long was this video in production?
Oh, that is distinctive. That is. Was he ill at the time? Like,
Did he like stop midway through Fishman Island section and then?
Dude, how old is Dritz even? Like, his voice, your voice doesn't change that much over a period of time. Like, what actually happened there?
Huh.
That's weird.
That's interesting. A month? What do you mean a month?
Why would his voice change like that, though? It can't have been like it's been over like a long period of time.
It took a month to make all this. Alright, that sounds fair, but you heard his voice, right?
At the same time this is happening, Nami is talking to the group, and the Minister of the Left mocks the fact that Nami has no understanding of how the log poses and magnetic forces work in the New World. I do not know why Oda incorporated this in the manner that he did.
I didn't catch that.
My job
so
is to make college easier because
special ad reversion technique.
Nami studied whether by others
Removing ads is Leo's Keke Genkai.
in speaking with Jinbei, and conceptually
Luffy
you can see how
Shurihoshi
Luffy and
dynamic
Shirahoshi
is
made
pretty
for
nice. I'll just
over
say
to
that.
Vanderdecken for the first time, where he proclaimed is stopped by Luffy.
It's kind of like Kobe and Luffy. Ooh. Except Kobe amped up to a more depressing degree.
From prison because
I mean, hey, they both have pink hair.
Fighting. The scene transitions to the world destroying the world. Nami is talking to the group, and the Minister of the Left mocks the fact that Nami has no understanding of how the log poses and magnetic forces work in the New World. I do not know why Oda incorporated this in the manner that he did. Nami studied weather for 2 years in Witharia, but doesn't even know the basic seafaring knowledge, like level 1 stuff for the New World, but she understood how the underwater currents work. It's kind of odd.
Witharia is in the sky.
Knowing ocean currents is like basic navigation.
Nautical something. A basic nautical talent, whatever the proper word is, but pretty much. Also, they're in the sky. Just saying.
Also, we don't know what Nami was taught specifically, and we don't know if they had any knowledge of how the New World works either. So it makes sense
Maybe
that
Nami was reading
Nami
the wrong
might not know specifics of things even.
books, I don't know. Similarly to Sanji, it's not the fact that something like this happened, which is causing me to point out because characters learning can be good. It's the lack of future things that make this seem weird by comparison, because navigation and its utility in the story is something that is heavily questionable post Fishman Island and will be a topic of discussion at the end of the arc. Oda obviously intended for this to be a moment of learning.
Apart from the scene here, what? What do you mean questionable? Oh, okay. This is one scene with Jinbei in Whole Cake, but apart from that, what you talking about, Dritz?
At the end of the arc. Oda obviously intended for this to be a moment of learning, but it's kind of weird coming right out of the time skip. When you go back to the pre-time skip as the Straw Hats were originally entering the Grand Line, they were completely ignorant of what was in store for them. They had no idea. They just thought they were going on an adventure. All they had was a map and that was it. Which is why the talk with Crocus was important. Contrast this with 2 years of studying only to fail at the most basic knowledge. It's a bit jarring. I could understand it if there was some super advanced stuff, but the Minister of the Left...
Okay, so Nami is being told down on by the high-class royals that her knowledge of sea stuff is lacking. Of course, high-class royals are going to be hoity-toity and haughty, that people not like them are not going to be as knowledgeable on the things that they know.
That's not even the case. It's just that Nami should know this thing already over the time skip. That's what he's saying. She should have already knew this, even though she was in the sky for 2 years.
And how are you supposed to explain to someone in the new world that, like, oh, black holes just happen? How do you teach someone, in either way, who's teaching knowledge about the second half of the Grand Line either way? There's not like a course you go to see, like, oh, this is how you you don't take a seafaring test to see, like, okay, you're going to turn left at the black hole right there.
This point is incompetence.
This point is terrible. Dritz's problem is that he's saying characters should have things which they firmly shouldn't, based off things that he's reading aren't there, basically.
Is literally making fun of Nami for basic stuff. Questionable. In chapter 616, Frankie meets the younger brother of Tom, and his name is Den. Frankie and Den have a conversation where Den informs Frankie that fishmen, by their very nature, look extremely different from one another. He goes on to say that humans have a limited way of judging people by their appearance. This is an interesting point and a nice lesson because it opens the door a bit more for how the fishmen see the world and how history has impacted them. The oddity with this entire subplot is that it doesn't really do much at all and doesn't make use of Den's lineage. Not a whole lot is done with Den's character or his...
Den wasn't a character. I'm sorry, Den fans. He wasn't a character. That's about it.
His relation to Tom, it's only used as commentary for how fishmen look different. This side plot is useful in the sense that it recoats the Sunny, but by the end of the arc, the Straw Hats are heroes and they're partying. So recoding the ship isn't a priority and could have easily been done off-screen and explained. The placement of this coding as a justification is a bit negligible. Den, being Tom's brother, accomplishes next to nothing. His speech to Frankie is more for the audience. Frankie's newly gained perspective on the look of fishmen doesn't do much, which, once again, I think there was greater potential for Oda to incorporate this in a more meaningful manner, especially because of Frankie's, his history with Tom, but also because Frankie is a cyborg. He's not fully human, he's part human, part machine. Have a seat, get comfy, let's talk. At this
You didn't even want... I just realized I just mute myself there. Anyway, like I was saying, come on, dog. You're gonna start a joke and not go all the way through it.
Also, why did he even play the Pokemon music if he wasn't going to transition into something Pokemon themed?
He wanted to... Wait a minute.
human, he's part human, part machine. Have a seat.
I guess that was just a transition to the next part.
Yeah, but why? If you're gonna... It could have been any transition then. That's just a waste of a transition.
I guess. I just thought that was going to be a lead up to a joke. I don't really have... Alright, back to the thing he was talking about, Den and Frankie.
This again hypes up their things that in relation to Tom. It's only used as commentary for how fishmen look different. This side plot is useful in the sense that it recoats the Sunny, but by the end of the arc, the Straw Hats are heroes and they're partying. So recoding the ship isn't a priority and could have easily been done off-screen and explained. The placement of this coding as a justification is a bit negligible. Den, being Tom's brother, accomplishes next to nothing. His speech to Frankie is more for the audience. Frankie's newly gained perspective on the look of Fishman doesn't do much, which, once again, I think there was greater potential for Oda to incorporate this in a more meaningful manner, especially because of Frankie's, his history with Tom, but also because Frankie is a cyborg. He's not fully human, he's part human, part machine.
I gotta agree there. Den doesn't do anything, and well, what's the point of that scene with Den and Frankie? Wasn't much. Kind of just exposition. That's about it.
Did we start the video again?
I'm back.
Have a seat, get comfy, let's talk. At this point in time at Fishman Island, all of the Straw Hats have had their separations come full circle, and if you remember, I asked you to keep the following in mind as I went over the events in chronological order. What was the end result of the separation, and what did it accomplish? Let's review what the results were. Luffy, Chopper, Usopp, and Sanji wake up and ride around with Kami. Sanji has a nosebleed, Luffy encounters Hammond, and Sanji gets a blood transfusion from the Okamas. Brook is separated, wakes up, and presumably goes straight to the Mermaid Bar, hangs out with Papaku, and then joins back up with the main group. Nami separates from Robin and Frankie off-screen right after being separated from the crew, and her first action and train of thought is to go shopping, even though at the entrance of the island, she was the person getting uncomfortable because of the Arlong tattoo. Alright? I guess that Gucci bag just took precedent. Luffy's group finds her and she rejoins.
Though the tattoo was
Zoro is separated, wakes up, I'm presuming started walking around, got invited by the guards to the Royal Palace, started drinking, and then was imprisoned once the Straw Hats got bad rep. The new group of Luffy, Usopp, and Nami head to the palace.
Are we just synopsising a synopsis here?
Yes. He's gonna make a point. Don't worry, he's gonna make a point.
But he could have just done this after the whole thing. He doesn't have to recap the recap. We already... If someone's read Fishman Island, they're not going to need a synopsis covering over everything. Especially not a double recap.
Don't worry, he's gonna make a point. This is all leading up.
So.
It's gonna all leading up to the point that Fishman Island is.
Yeah.
Luffy gets separated. Zoro joins the group after escaping prison. Frankie is separated, walks to the ship graveyard, meets Den, who recoats the ship, and waits there until people come to him in the sea forest. Chopper and Sanji stay back, fight some fodder, and wait until Luffy comes riding by Shirahoshi later on, which ends up curing Sanji's gag. Robin is separated and goes to search for a poneglyph that she suspects is on the island. As I mentioned before, the reason why authors split groups of people up is so that they can incorporate those characters into plot lines that otherwise wouldn't be possible or to create character interactions. By and large, the events that we got from this separation achieved neither of those things, and the things that we did get were of questionable value and importance.
Alright, I guess this is a good spot to say how much she is not following the story. With Nami, funny Nami moment. Brook, he met up with Papagu, and they're both famous, so it's also a Papagu and Brook moment, double feature. Zoro did his usual thing. Nothing really happened, apart from...
It puts Zoro closer to the action.
Yeah.
That's one thing, I guess.
It's just a little bit convenience at the very most. It's just a convenience. Also, Frankie, his ship. I'm pretty sure one of the first thing he'll ever do if he's ever separated to the ship is go look for it. So this is just dumb. You got Frankie wrong.
And he got to meet one of his and he got to meet one of Tom's relatives, which he highlighted in the video, so that should be on the list.
Triton saying something. Gonna type a message to him. Yeah, I don't know how to spell well, however you say the word. Alright, Sanji. I don't know what you're talking about. Sanji almost died from the nosebleed, so, yes. Now, Chopper and Usopp. What do I say about them? Chopper and Usopp. Chopper helped Sanji, but that's pretty much...
I feel this is a bit premature since we do get stuff that happens later out of it. Like, we get Chopper's Kung Fu point.
Yeah, Chopper doesn't really do much. And Usopp doesn't really do... Actually, Usopp really does the least amount of anything. He's just being Usopp. And everyone loves Usopp. So I guess you could make a point about Chopper and Usopp, but apart from them, everyone else did do something.
Yup.
Nah, I said Nami. And Nami was being Nami, so it was a character moment, and Brook and Papagu, so it was a double feature. So, you could say something about Nami and Brook, but I would say Chopper and Usopp did nothing.
Now, it's not uncommon for stories in general to waste opportunities like this because separations can sometimes be only important to one or two characters and not the whole group. But here in Fishman Island, we can say that it did more to lengthen the arc than to accomplish anything for any of the characters.
It was a
if Oda continues to walk down this road of doing nothing with his subplots, it will be an issue. And this is exactly what I'm going to point out as we continue to go further into the time skip, and that's what I have to say about that right now. The next step is for Hody to invade Ryugu Palace, where he comes face to face with the Straw Hats. Hody makes a point of saying that the Straw Hats
tapping something in the chat. He did a... Okay, I guess that kind of did follow back the Pokemon reference with that little jingle.
I'll give him that one. He gets the one.
Though he could have used a different transition. Oh, wait a minute. I thought this sound effect here was the Pokemon being healed thing, but that's when you complete a battle. Alright, never mind. He did it well. I'll give him that.
It could have been done better. He gets a quarter of a point.
To go further into the time skip, and that's what I have to say about that right now. The next step is for Hody to invade Ryugu Palace, where he comes face to face with the Straw Hats. Hody makes a point of saying that the Straw Hats are his sworn enemies, which, again, at this point, Nami notices that he has an Arlong pirate tattoo. Hody gives a speech proclaiming that Arlong was his hero, something that seems to shock and greatly disturb Nami. You'll notice that this has happened a few times in the arc already with Nami, and the reason I'm going to keep hammering it home is because of what the end result of this detail is. So just keep in mind that the arc is purposely building up
Better have
attention with
something-
Nami, the Fishman,
He
and
better have.
Arlong's influence.
He better have. And I really do want to hear him say something in depth about this said scene he's trying to bring up.
Based on her facial reactions, even if it's at odds with her initial movement after landing on the island in her quest for a bag. Additionally, Oda is building up Hody's desire for strength and how he supposedly hates the Straw Hats. Hody Jones begins to flood the castle and has a run-in with Zoro. Oda incorporates more Vanderdecken memes with his obsession with Shirahoshi and confronts her on a piece of flying coral, which Luffy is able to sense from a mile away. Wow, his new observation hockey is pretty good, huh? Vanderdecken goes on and on about his love for Shirahoshi. It's a fairly long, boring speech, and it just results in a gag answer from Shirahoshi saying he's not her type. We'll touch on that more later.
Okay.
Vanderdecken is then momentarily
Not much to say
defeated
on
by
that.
Luffy. Nami escapes with Kami from the palace with the intention of wanting to meet Jinbei because she has an idea as to why he told Luffy to not fight Hody and wants to piece things together for herself. Once again, this is building up Nami's involvement in the arc. She's the one taking action, she's the one noticing things. Zoro handedly defeats Hody while underwater, but ultimately gets captured with Brook and Usopp.
Pause.
Yes.
Why did he... Okay, he likes to bring up the Oda face whenever he's like... thing that gets brought up but doesn't get brought up, but like... No, Nami does things there. Why is he bringing that up now?
That's just
It's just weird. I don't get...
it's a misuse of context. Oh yeah. Also, since I'm seeing Ha-chan there, he didn't talk about Ha-chan meeting up with the new Fishman pirates. So that's an important detail that he left out.
Oh yeah, like... Okay, he summed it up twice, and yet he's forgot to left that detail out. That's... Wow.
In the arc, she's the one taking action, she's the one noticing things. Zoro handedly defeats Hody while underwater, but ultimately gets captured with Brook and Usopp. The rest of the Straw Hats converge in the Sea Forest and meet Jinbei, at which point, Jinbei reveals that he was the person who freed Arlong, causing all of the events which lead to Kokiyashi Village's state that we found at the beginning of the story. Spicy. And thus marks the beginning of the first flashback of the post-time skip. Fisher Tiger and Otohime are standout characters with compelling interactions. And this flashback is easily the best part of the arc and the thing that people come back for time and time again.
Indeed,
Fisher Tiger's
indeed.
quiet but passionate charisma is shown through his own struggles of fighting the hatred for humans that he bottles deep within himself. Something that becomes beautifully incorporated with Koala's subplot. A subplot which shows the fishermen that humans can suffer just as much as them, tying in together with Otohime's own plight about how the society of fishermen need to advance and give humans a chance to understand them. It's executed very well because it focuses on these two parties and how they affect one another. One Piece is the type of series where normally every time Oda has nameless fodder talk, it actively takes away from most scenes he's trying to incorporate them into, but that is not the case with this flashback.
Say what?
They only serve to
Say what? I really want an example of that.
Yeah. If we had to make a list of every time, mainly Drizzy will get the longest one because he's made a 6-hour video. But if we had to make an example, we have to make a point for every time someone brings an example and never elaborates on it. Drizzy would be at the high tier because I don't think I can ever think of a moment where like background chatter of characters detracts from a scene. The worst I can think of is when in Yu-Gi-Oh! When characters are just explaining things that have already been explained before, but in One Piece I can't really think of an example. I literally don't know what he's talking about here.
Another baseless claim with no examples. Or maybe it's just slightly based, but he just didn't have an example. Either way, examples please.
to make it better. Otohime's efforts in talking to the citizens, chasing them down, and ultimately being hurt when the parents send their children to take the ballots away, create sympathy with the readers while being an entertaining and realistic drama. And it's a great addition to have Otohime break down after this sequence of events.
Oh, now it's entertaining. Just because it's character moments, not moments with the Straw Hats. Moment with Otohime is hilarious. Okay, Dritz, I see what angle you're pointing at. I see where you're coming from.
She wants to hide her pain and suffering and cry alone in frustration because she doesn't want to do it in front of her children, a theme that is often relayed in the arc. Don't do it in front of the children. And it makes it even better because her children are her source of relief after long days, like most parents. Otohime's drunken speech connects her character to the populace and gives more depth to her dreams. The makings of a solid story with emotional weight are all present. Maybe Oda could have spared a few of the transitional scenes to make it flow better, but at the end of the day it worked fabulously. The narrative was a simple one to tell. There are less subplots to tackle, which make for easier and smarter storytelling. There are some nice twists, such as the arrival of the Celestial Dragon and the incorporation of Shirahoshi's abilities as Poseidon. And Oda ties in past characters like Arlong and shows a bit more of things that Kizaru did in the past before he became an admiral. These things are enjoyable to see as a fan. The only big criticisms that I have when it comes to the Fisher Tiger flashback have nothing to do with Fisher Tiger or Otohime, but with the characters that are currently present within Fishman Island. And geez, man. Vanderdecken, upon reconsideration, might be one of the worst villains in the story. When I was going back over Fishman Island, I was trying to rationalize in my head why Oda even created this character, and the only answer I could come to was not a good one. In chapter 625, near the end of the flashback, Shirahoshi saves Otohime when she is about to be held hostage by the Celestial Dragons, calling the Sea Kings, which promptly scare everyone around her. Upon seeing this, Vanderdecken states the following. There is a legend. The legend tells that long ago, an incredible power lay hidden below the waves. A mermaid princess with the ability to command even the Sea Kings. It was in pursuit of this legend that the very first Vanderdecken set sail for the depths. My ancestor, I finally found it. The treasure that you sought. It is only my clan who know the full truth of this legend. I know it. This short section, when isolated from the rest of the story, has potential. The Vanderdecken lineage sailed to the bottom of the sea long ago in search of Poseidon, an ancient weapon, but were unable to locate it. Since that point in time, the Vanderdecken clan has been searching for it. It is established that the current Vanderdecken's goal is to fulfill the desires of his ancestors and that very few people are aware of what Poseidon is. Sounds good, right? Well, hold on, let me continue. Here is more of Vanderdecken's quotes. First, I must make the princess my bride, but Shirahoshi is still a kid. That's a problem. Tamate Bako, and it can cause anybody to age? Could it say, turn a teensy little brat into a fully grown, sexy lady? This is it. Problem solved. With that box, I can marry Princess Shirahoshi. Once I'm Shirahoshi's husband, it will finally be my...
What did you say? It's the way he said lady.
Oh, alright, let me replay it then.
Grown,
just
sexy
listen to the
lady.
way he said lady.
Could it say, turn a teensy little brat into a fully grown, sexy lady?
I think that's just a slip of the tongue.
Did you catch how he said? He could have recorded that. He could, because that fits the Dritz as being racist thing, and that's
just a slip
not
of
a
the
good
tongue,
look.
dog. Don't need to think too much about it.
Yeah, but if that he could have at least put. He's not even reading what's on the screen though. He's making up. Oh my god, he is literally reading, not the story. Because that's not what's the text on screen even saying.
He does that a lot. So,
He's
actually,
reading
no,
his
he doesn't exactly do that a
happen to
lot,
be
but
racist.
sometimes when he's trying to make a point, he puts an image on the screen that you can only presume is supposed to aid in his points, but is to an extent confusion if he really has an issue or it actually supports said points. So, I guess you are correct.
This is it. Problem solved. With that box, I can marry Princess Shirahoshi. Once I'm Shirahoshi's husband, it will finally be mine. The dream that my clan has sought after for generations. Treasure. This is confusing, inappropriate, and lame, to say the least. The Vanderdeckens first sailed down into the sea in search for a mermaid princess that could control the Sea Kings, for the purpose of getting some gold and treasure? I don't even know how these ideas are supposed to connect to one another to make any sense out of it. If the goal was to get treasure, wouldn't the Vanderdeckens have sailed to fish?
When you put it up, he is meant to be lame. I'm pretty sure Vanderdecken was meant to be lame. Pretty sure. More of a comedic character. I'll just let this clip play.
To an island in the search of, I don't know, treasure instead of Poseidon? If Vanderdecken wanted into the royal treasury, which seems to be a priority, shouldn't his main focus be getting into Ryugu Palace and overtake it for the treasure? I could understand wanting to maybe marry into the royalty for a chance of getting into the treasury, but there are multiple ways of doing that. You don't have to marry Shirahoshi. And speaking of which, the only notable treasure that we know of is the Tamate Bako, which Vanderdecken wanted to use because he believed that it could make Shirahoshi older so that he can marry her to get to treasure, which is not the Tamate Bako and just regular treasure. Yeah, I don't know. It seems pretty dumb, right? And what part of this has anything to do with
I mean, Neptune is an ancient weapon, so you got that card in your field. So I'm pretty sure having any sort of ancient weapon automatically makes you OP.
I mean, does he not realize the implications of, hey, I can control Sea Kings. Let's go out and steal treasure. And no one can stop us.
I don't think he's making the connection of power and treasure here. But nevertheless,
the idea that Vanderdecken has to marry Shirahoshi, or the fact that she was Poseidon, outside of Oda's desire to incorporate what I would assume he thinks is a funny gag, but really isn't. Oda still goes with the idea that Vanderdecken likes Shirahoshi, and as a matter of fact, Vanderdecken's quote-unquote goal is never relevant, and he actively works against his own interests, despite the fact that there is nothing here to suggest that he feels genuine about Shirahoshi. Oda uses the "you're not my type" meme after we get out of the flashback, so we're back in present day. And in a fit of rage, Vanderdecken decides that he'll kill Shirahoshi because she doesn't love him. And then he throws the Noah at her with the intent of destroying the island. What? What was the purpose of teasing the Vanderdecken lineage in correlation to Poseidon if this was the end result? None of it even mattered. Nothing changed. The only thing that I can think of is that the sole purpose of Vanderdecken was to have a character in the arc that had the ability to throw the Noah so that Oda could meet his quota of having an arc that has a time limit before you stop the big bad. And
that was never introduced in any parts except for like Skypiea. Apart from that, there was no time limit. Alright. Meme Spy says that's the point. He is a joke. He probably been after her for so long, so he probably did fall in love, yeah. And I'm guessing having his heart crushed. I guess no one else should have Neptune. I mean Poseidon. Technically the same thing. The Asian weapon. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. He sucks, and he's showing how much he sucks.
in this case, to artificially raise the stakes, Vanderdecken is a plot device, more so than anything else. He's not a real character. Shirahoshi was trapped in a tower for 10 years and couldn't do anything that she wanted to do because Vanderdecken Devil Fruit made it dangerous to do otherwise. And that never comes full circle because there's nothing other than a gag going on between Shirahoshi and Vanderdecken. It seems like a complete waste. What was the purpose of doing all of this? Vanderdecken's plan sucks. All of this nonsensical writing could have been easily fixed by either Oda or his editors, because Vanderdecken fucking sucks and is a huge detriment to this arc. Oda spends so much time between Vanderdecken and Hody that...
Oh, you forget. He found, not Shirahoshi, Otohime crying to be the funny part. So, take what you will from that. I mean, he's more of a comedic character. Vanderdecken is the key to all this, you know. I have no strong... Actually, I do have a few strong feelings about Vanderdecken. He does a cool pose in the anime, and I like his laugh. His design is also pretty neat. Apart from that... Also, at the end of Fishman Island, there was the old Vanderdecken, and that made me question if he actually ate of any of those pills, since I never seen him do that. So, I don't know if that's a writing flaw, or that wasn't shown in the anime. First mishbad with the devil fruits, yes. Really? No one has anything to say about Old Man Vanderdecken? Alright.
Yeah, it's Vanderdecken.
No, I mean old Vanderdecken, because the side effects of the pills, and we never seen him take any pills, and I find that interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking on it. I can't think of when that would have happened.
Apart from when... Okay, I only have one point. When Vanderdecken and Horty Jones make that alliance, he took some of the pills. And that's the only time I can see him actually doing that, since he's usually on his own after then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your time I can think of.
That's about it. So, I got nothing else. That's just a plot hole then. Oda plot hole.
We have solved Fishman Island.
could have been incorporated elsewhere if there was never going to be meaning here. Carrying on, though, the flashback ends the way that we all remember it, and things return to real time with Jinbei explaining that he had always intended to bring Arlong to justice, but wasn't able to find them because he had paid off officials to keep his location secret. Oda will continue to add on to scenes like these as the post-time skip continues.
Pause.
After the
I still feel Jinbei could have done a lot more, given how much power he should have had.
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, he may be a legal pirate, but he's still not a part of the... At the very least, high up in the ranks to get any information like this.
It's just a feeling that even if he couldn't have gotten the information, we don't know if he could have done more, since it feels like he didn't do enough.
What else could he do? He doesn't know which part of the world he's in. He doesn't know if he's in any of the blues. He doesn't know which island to look if he ever chose to go to any specific part of the blue. Any north or south blue. So it's just a big gamble if he ever tries to even look for him by himself or with other Sun Pirates. What could he do there?
It just feels hollow to me to a degree.
But what could he do there? He had no information or
it's
no
not-
information or leads to know where the Arlong pirates were.
It's just a thing where I agree with you. It's just I felt it could have been portrayed better. Because I generally agree with you. There's not much he could have do. I feel it could have just been done better.
Well,
If that makes sense.
no, I don't see what you're saying.
Okay, I agree with what you're saying that there's not much Jinbei could have done. I'm just saying we could have maybe have shown maybe something more of him actually trying to manage what it is. Like maybe we might have had a flashback of it, just like a small scene.
Yeah. Okay, I
Just like have a
see.
flash,
I see what you mean there.
like have a flashback of Jinbei going, "Where's Arlong?" I'm trying to find him, and then you have like the brushing off. I mean, his word is saying enough, but I just feel like you could have been more because there's nothing about Jinbei saying I went out to try and look for him, even if I couldn't have find him. At least I tried. As far as we know, Jinbei was like, "So hey, where's Arlong?" It's like, "Don't know, sir." Okay, that's that.
Alright, yeah, I see what you mean. Just play by play on how he tried to find Arlong.
Yeah.
That's fair. But 8 years. Sheesh. Nevertheless.
The story of Otohime is told by Jinbei. Sanji has one of his lowest moments in the entire story. Before anything can be said by the person who the story most affects, Nami, Sanji, the kindest man in the world, butts in and tells Jinbei to kill himself.
You should kill yourself.
And that
now!
while it wouldn't...
I think this is a good scene.
This is a fair reaction.
Sanji is fairly overprotective. Sanji cares about his crew, especially of Nami. Sanji has seen all the trauma that Nami's gone through and knows his backstory completely. He's overreacting, but that's clearly the point of the scene.
In fact, he's like, I would say Sanji's in the right here. Over Jinbei's negligence, an entire island was enslaved, and not to mention the Marines that tried to save said island. He did a lot of damage.
And it was only until if Luffy had never had shown up on that island, things would still be the same. And Jinbei would probably have done nothing towards it, or have even have found any information leading to there.
Then I'm remembering the part. Let's see. If there was ever an instance where the the Arlong pirates decide to skedaddle and try to conquer the rest of the East Blue that they're from. Try to conquer the rest of the East Blue with their nautical powers. That could even be more of an issue for the entirety of that part of the sea, which in turn could be led to Jinbei figuring it out, so on and so forth. So it's just an idea on if Arlong was never stopped. Sanji's the nicest man. He broke a bird's neck. Oh, you mean, was it Miss Friday? Or Miss Friday, Mr. 13, the chicken, the vulture. I know what you mean. But hey, they came at him. He was in his legal rights as a pirate to murder that bird.
Self-defense.
Self-defense. Also his, what's it called? Plastic surgery feats. What was the move called again? He did it on Duval and the Noodles guy. Plastic surgery kick. I think that was what it was called. Yeah, he has a technique called that, so I'm pretty sure he's a nice guy. Anywho.
Redeem him, it'd at least make Nami feel a bit better because, yeah, that'd definitely make her feel better, man. A supreme showing.
Also, those two are alive. I'm guessing you don't know this meme, Spice, but, in the Baroque work cover story, the Navy swindled both Mr. 13 and Miss Friday into revealing information about the rest of the Baroque works. So, yeah. The cover story. Yes, sir. They're alive. As far as I know, Sanji does not have a list of murder. He doesn't have a murder list.
Of sensitivity and respect towards the man that Luffy has a connection with and who saved his life at Marineford. Nami then tells Sanji to stop, but Sanji is just sort of sitting there, still wanting to go off on Jinbei. I'm not sure what Oda really wanted in terms of how this comes off for Sanji to the reader. On one hand, you might say that the intent was for Sanji to come off as being protective and caring. But if that were the case, then the way that Oda went about it results in the opposite being true. Because after Nami talks to Jinbei about how she's happy now with her friends, Sanji is just there in the background hovering around trying to soak up and grab praise and attention from her. It makes Sanji look like an idiot, frankly.
That's his character. He's always been doing that. Also, in Japanese, he said he should commit harakiri, which is... I mean, I don't know if he knew this, but harakiri is a formal way of...
Offing yourself.
Yes, an honor, suicide with honor. Let's just go with that. Really, this scene really has a lot of contention in the fan base. But let's see this. I mean, it's a strong reaction, but this is very character. This is a very appropriate character for pretty much anyone. He really did so much just by letting Arlong go free. He is kind of the bad guy in the situation. He is the bad guy in the situation. I'm referring to Jinbei as the bad guy.
It might not have been so bad, but I think this situation is compounded by Sanji's request for Jinbei to kill himself. That's really extreme. But in spite of Sanji, Nami still delivers a good, wholesome speech. Which afterwards, Nami then begins to have her first interaction with Shirahoshi, almost all of which appears to be off-screen while Jinbei is giving exposition. Priorities, man. They're on point. Why this is off-screen?
Come on, dog. You're saying you want story? We'll get your story. Wait, you said you want a character moments? We'll get you character moments. You can't just have both in the same. Well, I mean, technically you could, but that's in the anime. But nevertheless.
Also, we just had a good character moment between Nami and Jinbei there, so we've already got that moment, and now it's the exposition's turn.
Yeah.
Grand, I'll never know, because the potential dynamic between Shirahoshi and Nami is something that Oda definitely should have made a bigger part of the arc. Like Shirahoshi, Nami spent a lot of time locked up in a room doing things she didn't want to do.
Why would they care? In Punk Hazard. But apart from Punk Hazard, why would she care about Shirahoshi being unlocked in the tower like that? Sanji just said Sanji just told Jinbei to kill himself. We already have enough character moments, I guess. Come on, dog. They are completely different. Yeah, also they're completely different. Just because they were both locked away, yes. But at least Nami was able to go outside, was able to breathe in the fresh air, take in the beautiful sights, almost die like every other day. Wouldn't call it a living, but it was a life compared to Shirahoshi's. She was stuck for safety.
The potential dynamic between Shirahoshi...
If anything, they were like the complete opposites. Apart from both being in what's the word? Captured. Both practically being imprisoned because of a fishman. That's pretty much as far as the similarities go.
And Nami is something that Oda definitely should have made a bigger part of the arc. Like Shirahoshi, Nami spent a lot of time locked up in a room doing things she didn't want to do until Luffy came to save her. And Nami's mom also passed away. There are things that they could bond over, but nope.
Surface level, no effort whatsoever. How much do you want them to go on this point? What? You tell me you want Orihime and Nami be like, "Oh, you got a dead mother? Oh, me too! Oh, me too! What? A fishman made you ensnared inside a prison? Oh, I didn't actually have a prison, but me too! Me too! Come on, dog!
Oh, hey, you know Luffy? Oh, I know Luffy.
We're part of the
You
Luffy
know?
harem. Me too! Come on, dog. How much do you want them to go in depth about something like this? This is very, very nitpicky. Yo, Pog, dead mom, sisters. Yes!
And Nami's mom also passed away. There are things that they could bond over, but nope. While Jinbei is giving exposition, a giant transponder snail randomly, and I mean just out of nowhere, walks out of the sea forest to show the Straw Hats a broadcast from Hody Jones.
Snails can't walk. That's about it.
Hody goes on with yet another one of his speeches, which Oda purposely makes Jinbei and Nami highlighted figures in listening to. Earlier, I reminded you after Hody's speech at Ryukyu Palace that Oda had gone out of his way to highlight Nami, right? Nami was even the central figure who was supposed to be listening to Jinbei's retelling of Otohime, Fisher Tiger, and what happened with Arlong. Luffy wasn't important. In any other story, you would assume that because Oda went out of his way to include Nami in all this and highlight her, that Nami would be one of the characters involved and at the forefront of the arc's resolution. Would you not?
Come on, let me hear you say it just once. Come on.
Trust Goda.
No! No, the other thing. Come on, I know it's just dangling off the tip of your tongue. Let me hear it just once, please.
Nami is
WRONG!
Nami has the
beautiful
nice
scene.
dialogue.
Apart from that, this was all leading up to her distrust of fishmen and that she doesn't like them. This was mainly about the Fishman pirates / Sun pirates. Actually, it's more about Jinbei. It actually is more about Jinbei rather than Nami. Jinbei, Hody, and Nami triangle. Nevertheless, it was just supposed to lead up into the Jinbei's flashback. Yeah. Plus, there were other people in the panel. Yeah, that one too. Meme Spice.
is
WRONG!
Nami has the nice dialogue exchange with Jinbei, but it doesn't correlate to anything else of relevance. Nami talks to Shirahoshi, but nothing comes of that.
Nami's character arc, Dritz. Come on. Even though actually it's more of like Jinbei's character arc. When I think about it, Jinbei Nami's character arc, 60-40.
Nothing happens with Nami after she pieces together the history of the Fishmen. Even though it seemed like she had a plan and wanted to learn things. Nami teams up with Robin in order to grab keys and yoink the petition, but there is nothing character-oriented for the rest of the arc, and Nami doesn't get anything else.
Yeah, I forget
all of
those
this
parts.
happens so fast
I got
and
nothing
without
to say
meaning.
about this because I kind of forgot the rest of the half of Fisherman Island.
The second half of Fishman Island is just lots and lots of big fights. So it's not much in the way of... And most of the fights are just the Straw Hat win.
That it's almost negligible in nature because there is no central conflict for Nami to solve. It just happens and there you go.
You're gonna say
Just
something?
another... Yeah, it's getting late, so I'm going to have to head off for the night.
Alright.
It's been good.
I'll try to get a good stopping point then. Good night.
Good night.
In nature because there is no central conflict for Nami to solve. It just happens and there you go. In my opinion, Fishman Island more than likely should have been Nami's second character arc in the story. Or at least an arc where she is the most important person in getting everything done. It fits best with the story here considering the antagonists are weak, and it makes the most sense given Nami's history as a character. From Arlong Park to Saba Odi to here, Nami has a history with Fishmen. I don't know what went on during meetings in chapter...
I mean, she has a history with Fishman, but she has a history with pirates. That was pretty much resolved. Not Fishmen specifically. This is more of a... Like I said, this is more of a Jinbei episode. / arc. So, take that to your cranium.
Discussions between Oda and his editors, but there is surely something wrong with how he wrote this arc. I don't get why he wrote the things he did for it to ultimately not connect to anything meaningful. Nami basically gets hoed this entire arc. During Hodi's speech, he reveals that Zoro and his group got captured, which leads to an argument between Luffy and Jinbei about how they should proceed. Meanwhile, at Gyeongcourt Plaza, Oda continues to hype up Hodi by having him take out the princes and the soldiers. Jinbei and Shirahoshi are intentionally captured alongside Megalo and brought to Hodi, which brings up another topic of interest. Madame Charlie speaks up from the crowd and informs Hodi that no matter what he does, he is destined to lose because she had prophesied that Luffy would be the one to destroy Fishman Island, meaning that anything he does doesn't matter. Jinbei overhears this because he's in the plaza too, just like everyone else, but apparently he had his ears shut because this is never brought up in the future of the story to any other person or acknowledged by Jinbei himself as something he cares about, which seems odd. He heard her say this and I guess ignored it. After this proclamation, Hodi sends a water bullet and injures Madame Charlie. Hodi then informs the audience that Charlie is Arlong's younger sister. Similar to my statement when it comes to Den, Madame Charlie being Arlong's younger sister has no purpose in the story and is not incorporated into a relevant plotline. If Hodi didn't say it, it wouldn't have changed anything. This is yet
guess that's also fair, but it's also a nice bit of trivia. Oda kind of does this a wee bit, but is that its most strenuous here? Because Den doesn't really do anything, and the relationship here is... what? There's no point to that.
another missed opportunity, because outside of her prophecies, Madame Charlie could have been a more prominent figure in the arc. You have her being Arlong's sister, we are dealing with the influence of Arlong, Nami, and the legacy all within Hodi. Why Charlie isn't involved more, I don't know.
Legacy?
Even in the
legacy? What are you talking about, sir? What legacy was there?
The legacy all within Hodi. Why Charlie isn't involved more, I don't know, because even in the flashback panels, we see that Charlie and Hodi seemingly grew up in the same environment and knew each other, but turned out differently. Seems like that could have played into something more important, doesn't it?
Yes, it did. It's called the Fisher Tiger flashback. You're welcome.
Once again, Oda chooses to ignore depth and to stick to shallow waters. After waterboarding Charlie, Hody admits to killing Otohime, has a cringy speech to Shirahoshi, where we learn that Shirahoshi knew the entire time that Hody was the one to kill Otohime because Megalo saw it happen. Hody calls Shirahoshi an idiot for not telling anybody because it resulted in Hody being able to do what he's doing right now. He then proceeds to hurt Shirahoshi's family as a form of taunting her. Now, Shirahoshi is an idiot for not saying anything, but that's the point, and it ties into her character archetype. She's a child in a teenager's body and is ignorant as a result of it. In her mind, she was just trying to do right by Otohime by attempting to move on. And given that she isn't really smart, this all kind of makes sense. It's at this point that the children ask Madame Charlie when Fishman Island is going to be destroyed, to which she replies with, "I don't know. In my visions, I only see the future. It might be tomorrow, it might be 1 year from now," which sets the rule that Charlie doesn't know when these things are going to occur. I'm sure Oda will stick to this rule later on. The citizens start screaming for Luffy, and then Luffy shows up as designed. Nami uses her Mirage Tempo to turn herself and Robin invisible to steal the documents. Just so we're clear here, Nami has an ability that can turn herself invisible. That's, damn. I mean, that's pretty useful, right? Seems like the perfect ability to use for a rescue mission. I'm sure Oda will keep with continuity and definitely utilize.
A rescue mission. If he's referring to Whole Cake. Actually, there's a few rescue missions in the preceding chapters. Nevertheless, Nami's pretty weak. So, no.
This. The Straw Hats show up and the fight at the plaza begins. Luffy uses large-scale Conqueror's Haki, and we see a little bit of some new stuff that the Straw Hats are capable of. Frankie unleashes his inventions, Usopp shows some effects of the pop greens, Sanji reveals that he developed Skywalk because he was running away from Okamas. Okay. As well as Hell Memories, an ability which I'm sure Oda will remember to use again. Zoro doesn't do anything.
Literally, you can't even fault him for that. Come on, guy. Do you even know what franchise you're looking at? There's many a times where a technique just gets to the wayside. Come on, dog. Come on, man.
Anything new. Chopper reveals some cheapified new forms, and most notable of all is the fact that he can now control Monster Point for a short duration of time. But afterwards is left completely helpless. The new design for Monster Point is a significant downgrade and loses virtually everything that was cool about it in the pre-time skip. I don't know what made Oda think this was a good choice, but Chopper is down bad. But there's lots of room for improvement, so maybe Oda has more in store later.
Yeah, gotta agree. Chopper did get some shaft action. Especially Kung Fu points. I do not like Kung Fu point. You removed a lot of Chopper's fighting style just by putting this one form in. I really miss arm points. Shout out to arms points. It was the best point. You were gonna say something, King? Like King Kel?
Oh, I was just wondering what he means about Monster Point, because it's basically the same, except he has pupils now.
Let me play it back. I think you meant to say character. The Monster Point character has been removed and changed.
Everything that was cool about it in the pre-time skip. I don't know what made Oda think this was a good choice, but Chopper is down bad. But there's lots of room for improvement, so maybe Oda has more in store later. The Straw Hats' role here is to fight Hody's gang of goons while Luffy fights Hody himself, as is usual.
He keeps doing. Actually, if anything, this is the first time he actually implies something. Directly implies something. So good on you for getting a little bit better. That's about it.
Hody, obviously, is being easily overwhelmed and outclassed by Luffy, but through the power of crack, is able to hang on past the first few blows. Hody sees Vanderdecken's insane attempt of throwing the Noah and takes the fight into the ocean, where after an exchange with Luffy while he is at a disadvantage in the water, goes and mortally wounds Vanderdecken, under the idea, and Hody states this himself, that if he were to kill Vanderdecken, then his ability would cease to operate and the Noah would fall on Fishman Island. Much to my shock, upon my reread of Fishman Island, I realized that by the end of the arc, Vanderdecken didn't die. He was just tossed into the same jail cell as Hody, which makes this entire sequence kind of odd in retrospect because even Oda makes it seem like Vanderdecken needed to die in order for the Noah to fall. And it makes it...
Well, okay, I didn't really read the manga, but that panel there when they were in the jail cell, only Hody had the white hair, so I'm gonna still be on that point. But until I see the manga myself, I find that a very interesting detail in the anime. Or
I
could just read the
remember
wiki.
reading somewhere that like Vanderdecken has to be conscious for his things to work. So even him getting stabbed and bleeding out.
But he said die, and he didn't die, not for like a moment. Did he pass out from blood loss, Meme Spice? Well, as I remember it, the Noah was still following Shirohoshi, so I gotta say no. He didn't pass out.
more complicated
because you tried to throw an axe to go after Hody. I think if that's the case, then I believe then Luffy tried to resuscitate Vanderdecken, and that succeeded. That's the only thing I got. He tried to resuscitate Vanderdecken. He succeeded. Hello, Rex? Well, if you want to do anything, I intended to leave once we get to a part of the section. Unless everyone else wants to continue. You were notified. You just didn't read the chat. The A-list chat. Also, I didn't think you were going to be ready. Not ready. I didn't think you were going to actually join. Aye, aye.
Because there is no guideline for which devil fruits stop whenever you are knocked out versus the ones that need to be manually turned off. Remember that Moria, even if you killed him, his fruit would still be active.
What?
Yeah,
what do you mean?
The Decken...
You heard this right? Where is he pulling this? If you die, then a devil fruit gets reincarnated. I think he even forgot that point. Did he know that when the devil fruit user dies, their devil fruit gets reincarnated? I believe he said something about that.
Wait, is he saying that Vanderdecken dies, or
No.
technically didn't?
To die in order for the Noah to fall. And it makes it more complicated because there is no guideline for which devil fruits stop whenever you are knocked out versus the ones that need to be manually turned off. Remember that Moria, even if you killed him, his fruit would still be active.
Could it be possible that Moria said that as a scare tactic for people not to kill him?
That doesn't sound like something he would do. But I say but
I mean, he is lazy.
also I don't think he actually said that.
Yeah, we need to look at the panels for that one, because I've seen a bunch of people bring this up, that Moria said this. I think even Mark and Brandline Review said, "Oh, this is kind of a contentious point. How Moria needs to let go of the shadows himself." But then a quick build and falls on him, and boom, all the shadows are released.
I think he's referring to the zombies. Okay, if he's referring to the zombies, if he's referring to the zombies, that makes sense. But from what I'm seeing, what Dritz is pulling off, he's referring to Shadow's Asgard, which confuses the hell out of me.
Oh, actually, no. I think there may be a distinction now, because at least with Shadows, he's already put in other stuff. You would need either the salts or himself. And with shadows that are just by themselves, as we've seen with Nightmare Luffy, you can just take them and place them anywhere else. So it could be that there's this small distinction on what shadows can do, depending on if they are attached or if they're not.
This all would have been perfectly fine if he just gave him an example or showed the context. Okay, just show the context. But whatever. This is Dritz we're talking about.
God dang trains.
But yeah, the Decan gets stabbed by Hody, and that's the end of him in this arc. This was the culmination of the Vanderdecken. All of his panel time led to this moment. Simply incredible. Amazing.
Hody doesn't, because he tries to fight Hody.
You were saying something?
Oh, he's saying that Vanderdecken just nothing happens past him getting stabbed, which is wrong.
I thought the lead up was the Noah being dropped on Fishman Island. Nevertheless,
goes to terrorize Shirahoshi for the upteenth time, and she is saved by Luffy. Hody makes yet another one of his villain speeches and says that Luffy can't protect anything. Luffy responds with, "Wrong. I'll protect everything. That's what the last 2 years were for." This dialogue from Luffy sets up his motivation and ideas around strength and what his priorities are, and I think comes off as a good line because it relates to the foundation of the time skip. Luffy trained during this portion so that he could be strong enough to protect his crew and never lose anybody ever again. This dialogue from Luffy brings up some questions. How would Luffy react if he failed to protect his crew? If Luffy were to be defeated, would it call into question everything he's been trying to accomplish? I can't wait to see how Oda has this come into play. Shortly after this encounter...
Shut your face. Come on, dog. He knew what he was getting into.
Well, for the first question, he said if he fails. Right now, I don't think he's failed at all. At least to my recollection. Anyone else want to chime in if Luffy has failed to protect anything?
No.
Well, after the time skip, no.
Except for spoilers for Whole Cake. A certain Mink Pedro, but that's all I got.
I can't. I don't see why I count that as a technicality, because I don't think Luffy. Well, yeah, Luffy didn't even see that one, and Pedro went on.
And not much he could do about that.
They had their hands tied there, yes.
He went off on his own terms, technically.
Fukaboshi points out all of the hypocrisies in Hody's plan. Hody planned to take over and rule Fishman Island, but now wants to destroy it. He wanted the Fishman District to take over because they dislike humans, and now he plans on killing everybody. And if he accomplishes his goal, there will be nothing left for him to return to. Hody then reveals the truth. Humans have never treated him wrong, and he's just a product of the environment because the fishmen didn't pay enough attention to each other. Hody is the chaotic embodiment of hatred. This is the narrative that Oda crafted for Hody, and it makes sense for the most part. I would say that there is actually a missing link here with Hody in terms of how he got from point A to point B. I don't think you can make the argument that Hody wasn't serious earlier in the arc about wanting to become the new ruler of Fishman Island. It wasn't a front. Hody's plan from the beginning wasn't to pull a Joker. It wasn't all about chaos from the beginning. There was a structured idea driving his hand, misguided but still there. And somewhere in between all of this, it changed from what he originally wanted to do into being chaos and going batshit crazy. Perhaps you can make the argument that his overdosing on pills is partly to blame, because he seems to be obsessed with them after he gets his hair Kanaki'd. But I don't even know if that's good enough. Perhaps being backed into the corner makes him just go insane, and that's a good enough justification. Overall, though, what Oda is going for is mostly substantiated through the writing. Hody ends up being what Fukaboshi said he was. The concept and evidence for a good theme are all present here. It connects back to Arlong, it makes sense with the Fisher Tiger flashback and how things shouldn't be done in front of children because it'll affect the future. Hody is a byproduct of everything that shouldn't have happened. Yet despite this, Hody is commonly looked at as one of the primary reasons that people do not enjoy Fishman Island. Why is that? The writing makes sense, right? So what's wrong? Let's break it down.
Ooh.
Hody Jones.
Okay.
Hody Jones is a bit
decent.
representative of Fishman Island in general because he dominates such a large portion of the story. So when you talk about the arc, you kind of have to bring in Hody. And Fishman Island as an arc was in quite the difficult position in terms of its placement. Fishman Island is the heir and recipient of all of the residual emotion, hype, and aftermath that came from Marineford.
Stupid son.
I'm sure there was a lot of pressure due to how the popularity of One Piece boomed during this portion of the story, for
What?
Oda to create something that would keep up and retain the series' newly acquired.
Alright, yeah, he said something about how Marineford and Water 7 were the jumping on points and the peak of the One Piece. Nevertheless, no. There was no pressure. No pressure, dog.
I'm sure there was a
At
lot
least
of
I hope not a lot.
pressure due to how the popularity of One Piece boomed during this portion of the story, for Oda to create something that would keep up and retain the series' newly acquired fame while managing to stay true to Oda's vision. Arcs like Fishman Island can be subject to overhate because of where they are placed in the story and how authors go about handling them. It's a bit of a tough spot to be in as a creator. I'm sure you've watched movies or other anime where you'll finish something that is basically the super climax of a portion of the story, and then the following arc feels lackluster in comparison. That's just the natural result of having to start over. People are used to things continuing to build up, so whenever you get that natural break of momentum and begin anew, it feels deflating. The MCU had to deal with this to an extreme degree after Endgame. They needed to go to the next phase of movies, and it's hard to make the fans care as much as they once did with the original cast of characters and moving forward with new people. Or to feel the same excitement because all of the movies Marvel had been leading up to a definitive end. And starting again makes people feel like it'll be impossible to make things new that don't just repeat the same formula. This wasn't really the case with One Piece. Unlike the example for Avengers Endgame, Marineford and 3D2Y naturally lend themselves to creating the feeling that you want to see more, because there isn't a definitive end to anything, just drama. So there is arguably more hype and excitement coming into Fishman Island and the New World than there is at any other point in the story, aside from maybe Wano. Which means that Hody Jones ends up being the first villain that a fresh and fit Straw Hats encounter in the New World, and he doesn't really hold up well. Hody Jones is a failed layered villain masquerading as a one-dimensional character. Not that there's anything wrong with one-dimensional villains, which is something that I think a lot of people tend to misconstrue since there is a bad stigma around them. Not every villain needs to have elaborate motives, and having every villain be super complex can run the risk of taking away from the most important villains in the story if everyone's super special. Although, whether you have a complex or simple villain, there are qualities that are very important to the success of a villain's implementation in any given story, which aren't reliant on character depth. Charisma, a commanding screen presence, character design, strength, not always physically related, and or competence. Good villains tend to have these qualities and then some, and having these qualities is particularly crucial for one-dimensional characters. Which makes sense if you think about it. If you don't have character depth...
So Dritz wants the arcs to continue off the momentum after Marineford. I think that's what he's trying to pull. But I'm pretty sure he just wants a good linear hype. Keep the hype still going for the new readers, in quotes, that join in the Marineford arc. Because apparently a lot of people joined when Marineford happened. Even though that's a baseless point.
Then obviously you need to make up for it in other categories in order to stand out. Crocodile, as he's presented within Alabasta, is the perfect example of a well-executed one-dimensional villain. Crocodile, of course, gains more depth outside of Alabasta, but while he's in it, he's mostly just a Mr. McBad guy. Hody, by any comparison, has next to nothing. His dialogue is filled with cringy, generic villain talk, the kind that comes out of like 80s and 90s cartoons, and he doesn't have the charisma to pull it off and make it sound impactful, which results in his speeches being off-putting and annoying. Nothing that Hody says is memorable as a result of all of this. And clearly his refrigerator-esque design isn't anything to write home about, although his drugged up state is a step up, but he's not commanding any interest.
Kind of like his... when he wears his hats and a little shadowy effect, I kind of liked it just from his face to his dog necktie collar thing. I like that. Apart from that, the rest of his design, no. He got a nice face and a cute scarf.
When he steps onto the court. Hody Jones is the One Piece equivalent of Kwame Brown. He's got no game whatsoever. And part of that is because Hody was placed into a sticky situation. The audience knows Luffy and friends aren't going to struggle too much on the first island. You can argue that Hody's lack of strength is more of a pro than it is a con. One of the main things going on in the background of this arc is that it's supposed to hint and reflect at the growth that the Straw Hats have coming out of the time skip. It'd be underwhelming if everything was like dead even. But Oda walks a dangerous line in doing this. During the arc, he continuously hypes up Hody for his strength, which doesn't really work given all that we've talked about in terms of the things that Hody lacks as a villain. And because Hody lacks everything that makes villains likable, when Oda goes out of his way to give Hody screen time, it comes off as if he's forcing him on the audience, which has the complete opposite reaction that you would want as an author. If that was all there was, though, just a couple instances of Oda pretending that Hody was strong, this would still be doable and we could live with it, but something else happens on top of this which kind of turns the tides in how Oda uses Hody as a villain. Oda turns Fishman Island into what he turns many arcs into when they have a successfully intimidating villain. Fishman Island turns into a, we have to save the entire country from being destroyed before the timer runs out. Save us, Luffy.
Alabasta, Skypea, Dressrosa,
Andy's Lobby.
Technically Andy's Lobby. And five arcs.
You also technically include Marineford.
Marineford. Are you sure?
The countdown to Ace's execution.
Didn't they actually hasten the execution time? That's why they cut off the cameras.
Yep, which is why you can even say that's even more of a ticking time bomb than anything.
Alright then, 6 arcs. I guess you make a point here, Drix, but it's a little shaky.
Crocodile, Lucci, Dofi, Katakuri, Kaido, and Nell. All of these villains have a ticking time bomb within their respective arcs. And you'll notice that if you place Hody in this group, that one of these things is not like the other. Hody sticks out like a sore thumb, and horribly so. The ticking time bomb method doesn't work in arcs where the main villain doesn't pose a serious or viable threat to the story. Oda over-dramatizes an arc that doesn't have any believable tension because Hody himself isn't a believable threat that feels satisfying to overcome. And even though Luffy is supposed to be significantly stronger than Hody, Luffy still comes out of the arc almost dead as a result in order for Oda to create drama with the blood transfusion plotline. Which, in an arc where all of the Straw Hats outside of Luffy beat their foes relatively easily, Luffy being the only person to struggle does seem kind of odd. But to add insult to injury, Oda has Hody tag team with Vanderdecken as the arc's main threats. Vanderdecken, who is a gag villain with wasted potential that makes nonsensical.
I paused it.
Can we mainly just talk about him saying Luffy being the only one seriously injured when he technically had many odds against him, being the fact that he's a devil fruit user fighting underwater?
Yeah. Well.
Yes.
He was in a disadvantage in the water. I'm guessing he saw that as a minor issue because Luffy was still pulling ahead.
He wasn't even he wasn't hurt though. He was winning easily though. It wasn't that much of a fight.
Yeah, but he needed help with other fishmen. Don't you understand? He couldn't do it by himself. Come on, dog. Come on, man.
Not to mention the fact that technically Luffy kind of did this to himself. That after he got bit by Hody, he tried very hard to destroy the Noah, which reopened his wounds to a bad degree, which caused the bleeding out. It wasn't Hody himself that caused it. He was the start of it, but the one who ultimately caused Luffy to bleed out was Luffy himself.
So, I'm guessing he's wrong then. Alright.
Cool decisions. These two people are the vehicles used to deliver the themes of Fishman Island, and I think that is a recipe for disaster. Hody is a symbol of generational hatred and racism, but that's all he is. A symbol. Hody has no other character in the arc to play off of in order to elevate himself beyond goon status, which is something that is sorely needed given the type of person that Hody was supposed to be. Hody is just living and surviving off of the attachment to other characters rather than his own merits. Nothing exists between him and Luffy, Charlie, Shirahoshi, Fukaboshi, or even Nami, the potential would-be protagonist of the arc. So to summarize, not only does Hody have nothing that makes villains likable in his repertoire, he also has no character dynamics or intrigue or really any depth outside of things that aren't really in his control to make up for it. No good character aspects and no strength.
He hasn't talked about Punk Hazard yet.
It's kind of reasonable why people don't really like Hody Jones. Fishman Island is a classic example of themes versus execution. The themes of Fishman Island fail to be as impactful as they otherwise could be because of the execution of its characters and subplots. And if the vehicles for delivering your theme aren't up to code and are constantly breaking down, then it's no wonder why they don't work. The cherry on top is that even though Fishman Island was the pit stop just before the New World, it ends up being a fairly long arc coming in at a staggering 51 chapters. So this is not a short arc, and the fact that it's long is not something that works well in its favor.
Yes, 51 chapters.
That's not... The literal next one is Punk Hazard, which was like 48, I'm pretty sure is what he said. That's not staggering.
Compared to the previous arcs, is what he's saying.
Oh, How long are the previous arcs? Let me check.
I'm not aware of this, so I'll just wait for you to check.
Yeah, you can just continue.
This is not a short arc, and the fact that it's long is not something that works well in its favor, because the longer you stay with Hody Jones and Vander Decken and giving all of them screen time, the worse it really is.
Very exciting announcement today. Opera GX! I love this browser. I'm so glad they reached out to me. So this is an internet browser that focuses on gaming. It has a
here's
ton
this
of
secret
really useful
ninpo
integrations.
technique
Just really
that
nice,
I
quick,
found.
easy access. And for you game.
And boom, skip the ad. Pretty light.
Hody isn't even worthy of sniffing Arlong's webbed feet when it comes to being a villain. Hody is the stereotype of a sequel being worse than the original. If you were to try and compare these two villains, you'll see that Hody fails in every category that Arlong succeeds in. Arlong has a fairly decent design. He's intimidating. He has charisma and screen presence. He's strong. His hate for humans is clearly felt, and it's even better in Fishman
stronger comparatively to... Not that strong comparatively to Hody. And he's definitely not stronger than Hody in canon. So, I gotta disagree there.
Really decent design. He's intimidating. He has charisma and screen presence. He's strong. His hate for humans is clearly felt, and it's even better in Fishman Island than Hody's is, just looking at the Fisher Tiger flashback alone, because Arlong gets the play off of Jinbei and Fisher Tiger.
That's unfair. Come on.
But most importantly, Arlong's villainy resonates to the audience because of how it ties back to Nami and the crew, because Oda made that the main focus of the story on almost every level. That's why that arc succeeds and is one of the best in the entire story. The same can't be said with Hody, because Hody doesn't resonate with any other character or the audience. So, that is why the writing doesn't always make everything good just because it quote-unquote fits. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and try to wrap things up with the arc summary. As we know, Hody ends up being defeated by Luffy, and then Luffy is stopped by the Sea Kings and Shirahoshi due to the Noah's Descent. Everyone begins to celebrate Luffy's victory on the mainland, but disaster strikes. Shirahoshi swims down to inform everyone that Luffy has lost too much blood from his bite wound against Hody. Without a blood transfusion, he would die. This makes it seem like injuries and the amount of blood you have in your body matter to your overall health, which, I mean, it makes sense. Injuries can be some of the most powerful aspects of storytelling because injury creates sympathy, emotion, and concern. I look forward to seeing how Oda will implement using injury as a seried method of drama in the future. Jinbei steps forward out of the dust at the Straw Hat's pleas, and we get that beautiful scene between Captain and future crewmate.
Also, no, Drix. No.
This moment and most of the epilogue for Fishman Island is actually pretty damn good, which ends up being an Oda staple. He normally nails epilogues. The big party, the Poseidon reveal, Big Mom's character design, Tamago Peckham's, there are things at play here that are easy to digest and interesting to look at. It's a wonder why the entire arc couldn't be like this. Oda does well when the events that are happening in the arc have little to do with the central conflict or the writing of that flashback. One of the things that Fishman Island shows, outside of this, is that the Straw Hats still have more left in the tank and can take on stronger foes. They are feeling very confident in themselves for jumping this hurdle, which makes the audience and the Straw Hats feel as though they've actually advanced. One of the last events to occur within Fishman Island is the Minister of the Left gifting Nami the 3-directional log pose. This is something that may never get an answer because I don't have access to the information necessary, but I'm going to go out on a limb and make an educated guess that Oda originally planned to use this log pose more than he currently has in the story.
Not again. Come on, dog. It's a passive item. Come on. Does he not realize that log poses are just a one and done concept? What type of significance does log poses have, really? It's a one and done concept. They just need it to be there, and that's it. It's not like the log pose of the previous Pirate King, or like the previous Pirate Fishman, or the Neptune's log pose. It doesn't matter. Come on.
The Oda information necessary, but I'm going to go out on a limb and make an educated guess that Oda originally planned to use this log pose more than he currently has in the story. Much earlier in the script, I mentioned that Oda confirmed to us that he's combined numerous island ideas together in order to create arcs like Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, right? The fact that he did this infers the original desire to have the Straw Hats sail around more than they did. If you have to get to more islands, then that means that more sailing needs to be done, right? My suspicion is that Oda decided to combine the ideas of Punk Hazard and Dressrosa after the introduction of this log pose, because it's the only thing that makes sense to me as an answer.
I'm guessing he forgot there were several islands that one can take to get to one specific point onto the Grand Line. I mean, onto the New World. I guess you just forgot about those islands, huh? I guess you forgot about the line directly after with Luffy and the log poses pointing in different directions, and one being like spazzing out, meaning there was a stronger connection and dangerous.
What?
This is just wrong.
Yeah, why would they go? Why would it? Did they? It's just a choice. Why would they go to all three islands? That'd be stupid.
He just forgot there were several islands in the Grand Line that has unique pathways of magnetic poles.
You may not know it, but this log pose has actually not been used yet, which makes its introduction questionable. The Straw Hats have been traveling almost exclusively by Viva cards.
What? This log are you? Only once, and that was when he needed to go free Ace. This guy is talking out of his ass.
The Straw Hats have been traveling almost exclusively by Viva cards. This log pose doesn't serve a purpose because of how the Straw Hats get from one place to another, and that happened over the course of one arc.
Yeah, he didn't read One Piece.
But luckily for Oda,
he even went over how Nami didn't know anything about the New Worlds, how to navigate through the New Worlds. Did he read One Piece?
Wait, can you rewind a second?
This log pose doesn't serve a purpose because of how the Straw Hats get from one place to another, and that happened over the course of one arc. But luckily for Oda, he can always come back to this when he needs it.
Is he saying that the Viva cards was used over one arc, or is he saying that the log pose was used over one arc? Because both are.
Let me replay it back further then.
Sense to me as an answer. You may not know it, but this log pose has actually not been used yet, which makes its introduction questionable. The Straw Hats have been traveling almost exclusively by Viva cards. This log pose doesn't serve a purpose because of how the Straw Hats get from one place to another, and that happened over the course of one arc. But luckily for Oda,
he's referring to the New Worlds. Even then.
Sorry.
Sorry. When they went to Punk Hazard, they went via radio signal because of a radio signal. And then for Dressrosa, how did they get there again? Did Law have like a log pose there?
In Eternal Pose, I think so.
Yeah.
Either way, Law was the one that headed them to Dressrosa. So I'll give you that, Drix. I'll give you that one. That log pose was not used. But apart from that,
new one has.
You're talking out of your ass.
Yeah, new one has technically not been used, but his claim that only via Viver card is already false. Also, does anyone remember how they got to Zoe? I could have sworn they just like followed the sea until they hit the
a Viver card. They used a Viver
really?
card. Yeah, I believe so. I distinctly remembered a Viver card.
But whose?
I think it was Kinemon's / Conjuro's.
But
or was it one of Law's?
I'm not sure, because Kinemon and Conjuro, they were with the Straw Hat crew, so the Viver card wouldn't exactly be useful to find them, considering they're with them.
I mean, I meant for Raizo, remember?
Oh.
Is it Law or Kinemon Conjuro? Is one of those two had a Viver card. I'm certain of it.
And how they get to Wano again? Like, my brain is spacing.
I think it was just. Was it because? Oh yeah. I'm not sure if Wano was on the map, but they were supposed to get directions to enter Wano through Transponder Snail. Okay, Law did give them a Viver card for Zoe.
Wait, who was the Viver card?
Yeah, well, was the? Oh yeah, for one of his crew. That has to be it.
It's the only thing I can think of, but I'm trying to remember if they were on Zoe, because well, they did talk about Beppo for a bit, so maybe.
Law's crew was on Zoe.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Okay. My brain's just forgetting right now. It's been a while since I've last read that arc. Should probably reread it.
Alright, it says here, chapters. Punk Hazard, 46, Thriller Bark, 48, Fishman, 51, Water 7, 53, Andy's Lobby, 56, Alabasta, 63, and so on and so forth. Yeah, 51 isn't that long compared to the other arcs. So on that part about 51 being a good amount of time, being spent on Fishman Island, technically, but compared to the other arcs, no.
He can always come back to this when he needs it. Sometimes the plan changes and it's up to the author to adapt the story to compensate. The only negative aspect to this is that it does hurt navigation and it comes off as odd because Nami got roasted for not having it. Outside of that, the Straw Hats say goodbye to Jinbei, who is on his way to Big Mom, and they make their promise to Shirahoshi. We end up seeing that Hody and his crew age due to the effects of the Tamate Bako box, which was then sent to Big Mom. So you see things have been set into motion for Whole Cake Island when we eventually get there. And this is a smart thing for Oda to do, and it's something that he normally does do. Oda is very talented at planting seeds for future plot points. Everything ends with the Straw Hats ready for their next adventure and sailing out of Fishman Island as the heroes. Having covered basically everything in the arc, there is one more character.
I'm a little annoyed I didn't refer to the hero segment with Luffy / Zoro. And Hachi. He didn't talk about Hachi. I need a drink of water. He didn't talk about Hachi, if you believe me or not. I'm back. Let's see what he has to say about Shirahoshi now.
That I want to dive into and take a look at before I give my conclusion statement on the arc overall. In the pre-time skip, One Piece had a total of 2 princess characters in its 23 arcs, Vivi and Boa Hancock. In the 8 arcs of the post-time
Dingling. Sure, she was a was she ever even considered? Well, the title of Empress implies that she couldn't have been well, depending on hierarchy. Nevertheless, just the one guy.
Vivi and Boa Hancock. In the 8 arcs of the post-time skip, there are 8 prominent princess characters that are connected to some type of royalty. Rebecca, Viola, Mancherry, Pudding, Reiju, Hiyori, Yamato, and of course Shirahoshi. As you can see, this royalty...
Never mind. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything yet.
Concept is something that Oda is including in virtually every single arc, and in many cases multiple times. Princess-like characters play an important role in the politics of the world, because they connect the pro-Straw Hat agenda into the endgame of the story with the final war. Luffy gains his allies through the rescuing of these fallen kingdoms and its various royalty. And these royalty characters are people we are going to analyze in depth because there is a lot riding on how well they are written and executed in their respective arcs. If Oda fails in writing these critical characters, it's significantly harder to make the audience engage with and care about them and the islands they're associated with when the story goes beyond the arc. Imagine if, during the Alabasta and Summer War sagas, that Vivi and Boa were in animation during when the story goes beyond the arc.
Ow!
Imagine if, during the Alabasta and Summer War sagas, that Vivi and Boa were insufferable, poorly written characters with next to nothing going for them. Well, the quality of those sagas, especially Alabasta, would be much worse off if that were the case. And the Reverie would be a lot less interesting because the abolishment of the warlords would be much harder to care about since Boa's situation is quite literally half of the reason why people care. Her and Mihawk are the only remaining...
Let's get that back one more time.
And the Reverie would be a lot less interesting because the abolishment of the warlords would be much harder to care about since Boa's situation is quite literally half of the reason why people care. Her and Mihawk are the only remaining warlords that impact the audience's investment through its abolishment. Fishman Island...
And this is pretty biased. We don't know nothing about Weevil. Buggy, he was in several arcs. Mihawk and Boa aren't the only ones. In fact, why would anyone actually care for Boa Hancock anymore? She's already a done character.
Well, you can expect 2 reasons for people to care about her.
I can expect the reason why she would care about Luffy, but apart from that, dog. He again is blowing smoke out of his sphincter.
Island gives us Shirahoshi, the audience's investment through its abolishment. Fishman Island gives us Shirahoshi, who ranks very high up.
What about previous warlords? What about how they feel about the warlord status being evicted warlords, hearing that the warlords are no longer in whatever the proper word is. No more warlords ever. What about them? What about previous warlords?
abolishment.
Whatever.
Fishman Island gives us Shirahoshi, who ranks very high among the princess characters in terms of importance. She's an ancient weapon and the most relevant living figure when it comes to people of different races. Additionally, Oda went out of his way in designing Shirahoshi to make her someone that could be comparable to Boa Hancock in his eyes in terms of beauty, and he's talked about this in interviews of how stressful it is to draw those kinds of characters. So obviously, Oda has deemed that the usage of Shirahoshi in the story is critical to its future, which makes sense because she's inherently linked to the history of Joy Boy, the Noah, and the symbology of the sun, which means that Fishman Island is very important in setting the tone and making the audience care about her as an individual. So, let's ask the question.
Can you pause for a second?
Yeah.
When was the image of the or any themes or anything hinted towards the sun a part of her?
Sun. I have no idea what he meant by the sun. What's going on with the sun?
Is it because she wants to see the outside world, which technically has the real sunlight, and not the synthetic sunlight they have down there?
Alright, I guess you don't know either. What's going on with the sun in One Piece?
Well, apparently they have like a sun god story, but that's later down the line. And
that Fishman Island is, and this makes sense because she's inherently linked to the history of Joy Boy, the Noah, and the symbology of the sun, which means
the symbology of the sun.
Yeah, I got nothing on that.
Well, whatever then.
Her as an individual. So, let's ask the question. Does Fishman Island do a good job with Shirahoshi as a character?
Yes. They lost their Nimpo technique. Automatic skip. Add.
If you recall back to my thoughts on Shirahoshi talking to Luffy inside of her tower, I have a preference for the type of character that Shirahoshi is, and enjoyed that interaction very much. But in spite of my preference for that archetype, I don't think Fishman Island does Shirahoshi justice for what she is supposed to be. When people talk about Shirahoshi post Fishman Island, it's all plot oriented and no one really cares about her feelings as a character or what she could accomplish. And a large portion of this separation can be seen in how Oda incorporated her into the plot of Fishman Island. Shirahoshi peaked during her conversation with Luffy and never reached that high again. The majority of her moments are...
I guess as a character... Even then, no. But I don't really care too much.
Underwhelming or just okay? Let's go over the rest of what Shirahoshi is involved with after leaving her tower so I can better frame this. Shirahoshi has a run-in with Vanderdecken, the person responsible for imprisoning her for a decade, and we get the "you're not my type" gag. Shirahoshi visits Otohime's grave, and we get a bit of her in the flashback as a little kid. Then Shirahoshi talks to Nami and bonds with her off-screen. Shirahoshi leaves with Jinbei to go to Gyeongkor Plaza, gets fooled by a blow-up doll of Neptune, and is captured. Hody Jones tells her that he killed Otohime, and Shirahoshi has the "I already knew that" moment. After being freed, she stays near Surame until Noah crests the horizon. Then, she basically just swims around distracting the Noah while yelling, and is occasionally tormented by Hody. After Luffy stops the Noah, she has a conversation with the Sea Kings and then takes Luffy down to the surface screaming for help. And then the final thing she does in the arc is to make her promise with the crew, which in my opinion is the second best thing involving Shirahoshi in the arc in terms of feel-good character moments. All in all, not a whole lot of positives going on here to make Shirahoshi appear outstanding.
But she made the save the Noah and Fishman Island with the Sea Kings, if I remember that correctly. So, I don't actually have much to say on that. but that wasn't important moments.
In any way. When Shirahoshi isn't alone in conversation with Luffy or the Straw Hats, the negative aspects of her character archetype take over. Shirahoshi is true to her nickname. She is a cry baby. And it's a persona that fits well with the design of her character, as I've gone over before. She's a child, but she looks closer to an adult. Japan's obsession with sexualizing 16-year-olds is impressive, to say the least. You will notice that in a lot of stories, there are certain characters that tend to get on people's nerves more than others. Even if it's for the wrong reasons, there are things that make readers distance themselves from people unless that person is involved in things that keep them interested. And the number one thing that tends to push people away is when characters scream, cry, and yell incessantly. Just like how it is with babies in real life, the first reaction to hearing this is to stem the noise. It's irritating. People want to see these characters develop and go beyond the baby status. Shirahoshi does a lot of crying, which is fine in of itself, but it becomes a negatively defining feature of hers because Oda doesn't do a whole lot with her in Fishman Island, so it tends to be what she's most remembered for, which affects her likability.
But that's her character.
There are elements that I've already talked about which work against her. And to illuminate these elements, I'll begin an unfair comparison between Shirahoshi and Vivi, the premier princess of One Piece.
That's their character. Come on, dog. You want her to have a major character arc? Alright, but... Yeah, nah, that's her character, right? She's been locked in the tower for practically all her life. You can't expect a big character changed after that. Whatever.
There are a variety of reasons as to why no one has been able to come close to Vivi among the princess characters. And near the top of that list is the way in which Oda went about acclimating Vivi into the Straw Hats as an individual. Vivi is with the Straw Hats for almost the entirety of her saga, so she has 3 arcs under her belt with the crew before they even step foot in Alabasta. This gave Vivi a lot of time for character interaction, growth, fun, and everything in between, which creates a genuine human connection to the main cast, which increases the investment into Vivi's plight. Shirahoshi and the other princesses aren't going to have the luxury of being with the Straw Hats for multiple arcs in a row, so they can't all be like Vivi, nor do they have to be. That's why part of this is an unfair comparison. But when we look at these princess characters, we need to look for what Oda is trying to accomplish.
I'm going to pause for a moment.
What was the potential, and at the end of the day, how good is it? And with Shirahoshi, there